brilliant, my love is pure. I saw an angel, of that I'm sure. She smiled at me on the subway. She was with another man, but I won't lose no sleep on that, 'cause I've got a plan. You're beautiful, you're beautiful, you're beautiful, it's true. I saw your face in a crowded place, and I don't know what to do, 'cause I'll never be with you.
It was on this day in 2006, exactly 20 years ago, that English singer-songwriter James Blunt was at number one on the U.S. singles chart with that song right there. It's called You're Beautiful. And Blunt would later explain the song was about seeing his ex-girlfriend on the underground in London with her new man, who I didn't know existed. Ouch. But, you know, it's usually from that kind of personal experience that great art emerges. And not a bad song at all. A number one for James Blunt on this day in 2006. You're Beautiful. It is 2 minutes after 9. This day, she is not beautiful at all. I'm sorry to be so blunt about it. See what I did there, James Blunt? It's not a beautiful day at all. Stay dry. And that by that I mean your basement as well. I want to talk about something that has been eaten away at me. I've mentioned it in recent times. In fact, I brought this up the moment that we learned that our Charles Street bus terminal, the lands upon which it sits, the former terminal, are going to be declared surplus. And when that news came out, I started thinking about this. And initially, it's like, oh, what's going to become of that? I mean, if you declare the land surplus, what's next? And so we've been following the story, and I'm sure you heard Justin Kohler's excellent reports this morning on All News Mornings. And I'm just here to tell you this morning, okay? And we're doing it wrong, okay? We are doing this wrong, in my opinion. Let's get into a little bit of the detail in case you missed Justin's stories again, which were excellent. But here's just a sense for you from Regional Councillor Barry Verbanovic and Regional Councillor Matt Rodriguez about the significance of this parcel of land on Charles Street in downtown Kitchener.
This is a critical piece of real estate in the urban center of our largest municipality and in the center of the region, and not far away, as we know, from the new transit facility in King and Victoria, and then all of the land holdings that the region now has on Victoria between King and Weber Street.
This really is one of the most exciting projects for downtown Kitchener, and such a massive block that we're looking to reimagine.
Okay, so if it's exciting, can we sound excited? Can we even talk about something exciting? Because as we know, and as Justin reported this morning, the plan is to move forward on this critical piece of real estate and reimagine this exciting opportunity piece by piece. I ask you, my friend, how on earth is that in any way exciting? Where is the vision for what the entirety of this piece of real estate looks like when it's done? Because I'll tell you what, if you don't have that, you're sure as hell not going to get to it when you go piece by piece. Here's Regional Councillor Matt Rodriguez again.
We learned pretty hard through the transit hub that breaking this apart is a path to go forward to de-risk things and achieve benefits across the site. So I fully support that. There's been some great experiences locally and across the country where public ownership has allowed different communities to secure public benefits and really maintain those expectations for development, and also secure an intergenerational asset for our community. Again, it's that huge block right downtown, and that's not to say that every block is retained, but I think this phasing allows us to really dial in on a specific approach while also looking at a specific housing targets across the site.
You know what the block is here? I'm going to tell you right now what the block is here, Regional Council. So my challenge to any member of Regional Council today is to get the hell out of the way. Why are you blocking? Why does this have to be publicly owned? And de-risk? Do you know what you get if you de-risk? Zero reward. None. If you are willing to take some risk, you just might realize the reward. And I understand the risk part of this equation. I get it. And my concern is one of two things. We have either become so risk averse that we are unwilling to do anything exciting, or we have become so complacent we just don't care. I sure as hell hope it's not the latter. It might be the former. Are we just so risk averse we can't get out of our own way? Or do we have our laurels and are we just resting on them? Let me share with you just a couple of examples. First of all, I'll just ask you, who owns Scotiabank Arena in Toronto? Because it sure as hell ain't the city. And I shared this with you before. We are the 10th largest municipality in all of Canada. As a region, 10th largest, okay? The 9 larger municipalities than ours all have NHL-sized arenas in them. All of them. Why does it stop at 10? I'm not suggesting we need an NHL-sized arena. What I'm suggesting is this. We need a little bit of pizzazz here. And we're not going to get to the pizzazz if we are completely risk averse and if we move forward one piece at a time, because itty-bitty individual pieces are not going to bring us to a collective, exciting whole. I know, and I can hear you saying, but Farwell, like Councillor Rodriguez is not wrong here when it comes to affordable housing, non-market housing, the opportunity for public lands to create that housing. You're right. You're right. What I would like to ask you to think about this morning is where else that non-market affordable housing can be built. Because all we seem to do lately, and I've riffed on this before as well. You want a condo? Hell, have we got a condo for you, right? You want an affordable, attainable housing project? We've got Build Now up by Rim Park in Waterloo. But every time we turn around, it's build this, build that, turn this into a fourplex, build a 40-story condominium tower, housing. We are creating more and more and more spaces for people to go into, to live in. But are we living or are we just existing around here? What can you do outside of your home that fills your bucket? Where do we get the vibrancy that the 10th largest municipality in the entire country should have? Because we're not going to get it by building more condominiums. We're just not. We're just not. And if we continue, I know we've got problems. We do. We've got problems we got to fix. We've got the homelessness issue. There's no question about it. We've got the addiction issue. There's no question about it. But we have to start walking and chewing gum at the same time here, because if we continue to focus on all these grim, glum problems, then we're going to end up with a grim, glum community. I love this town. Is it just me, or is it getting a little boring out there? Where is the vision? I asked you about Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, right? Who owns it? It's not the city. It's Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. Why do we insist on getting the government, like these 16 people at Regional Council are the only people that can envision a future for the Charles Street Terminal site? They're the only ones? Can we get the private sector involved in this some way, somehow, not one piece at a time? Let's pull out a big old roll of paper and start doing some visioning. I want you to remember that back in the 1940s, somebody had the guts to stand up and say, Do you know what we need? We need a new arena. Actually, not a new arena. We need an arena in this town that was, at the time, the fourth largest in the entire province of Ontario. 70, 80 years ago now, we had the vision to say, we want something that's the fourth biggest in Ontario. And people said, you can't build it way out there on the outskirts of town. And I ask you today where we would be without the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. Where would we be without it? 80 years ago, somebody said, this is the vision. How about 70 years ago when Dr. Jerry Hagee and Ira Needles, a businessman, Carl Pollack was involved in that too, another business. Wait a minute. So a college president, Jerry Hagee, and businessmen like Ira Needles and Carl Pollack came together and envisioned the University of Waterloo. People thought they were nuts. What are you doing with all this land out here, this and that? And look at, where would we be without the University of Waterloo today? These men at the time realized that, as World War II's coming to an end, we need to get some engineers around here. We need to create the place for these engineers to be trained. We need to innovate. People thought they were nuts all that time ago. And where would we be today without the University of Waterloo? Just the other day, front page story in our Waterloo Region Record about Bill Thompson. Bill Thompson is the man who envisioned our expressway. The only complaint I ever hear about the expressway to this day is, geez, it would have been nice if the original concept of an entire ring road was fully conceived, instead of it just being an east-west piece. But tell me where we would be today without the Conestoga Parkway, as we call it, the expressway, Highway 78, 85 North. Where would we be without it? How many times have we looked at that piece of infrastructure and said, it sets us apart from the others, mostly London? Where would we be without it? And where would we be without those people who had, you people with your big ideas, an expressway, the fourth largest arena in the entire province, a university to train the next generation of engineers who were going to be in need, which becomes the University of Waterloo. Each and every one of those ideas had opponents. Each and every one of those ideas carried risk. And still, we boldly moved forward with them. Why do we not do that anymore? We can address housing. We can address homelessness. We can address addiction and all of the other problems. But if we don't start dreaming just a little, please, somebody dream with me. It's getting pretty boring around here. And I envision a future of 1 million people in this community who just have places to exist. We're not living around here. We're just existing. Yep, we got a roof over our heads, and I know how important that is. What are we doing if we ever set foot outside the place that you build us to live? Where are we going to go? What are we going to do? What's attractive here? What brings other people here and say, yeah, that place, it's innovative. It's got vibrancy. Where is it? My challenge to any member of regional council, dream a little bit. Dream bigger than you're dreaming right now, because piecemeal on this site in downtown Kitchener is not going to cut it. All right, your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning, the 11th of March, number 1. The rain will go away, but not until tomorrow. We could see as much as 40 millimeters of rain through the day today before this system moves on and it gets cold tonight. Flood warnings in place around the region this morning. Number 2, week 2 of our new waste collection system starts today. So here's hoping you've had pickup from week 1. The region is also sending out curbside cart education teams with collection crews this week, helping make sure we have our carts in the right position at the end of the driveway. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Ontario Finance Minister Peter Bethlen-Falvey is set to table the provincial budget on March the 26th. Themes will include mitigating economic risks by spending on innovation, competitiveness, and infrastructure. Wait a minute. Could we spend on innovation and infrastructure here in the region? Do you think we could I get 2 liters of pop? Could I get some spending on innovation? Maybe. The budget, provincially, will come the same week the legislature returns from an extended winter break. Number 4, Prime Minister Mark Carney is closer to a majority government. Nunavut MP Laurie Idlout crossed the floor from the NDP to the Liberals to give Carney's government 170 seats, 2 by-elections in the Toronto area and 1 in the Montreal area that are set for next month are expected to be the deciding factors. The Liberals would have a majority even if they only win 2 of those 3 by-elections, but would still likely rely on opposition support to pass legislation. We're talking more about that on the show this morning at 11. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the town of South Bruce Peninsula has announced the passing of Wyerton Willie. The town says the weather forecasting groundhog died peacefully in his sleep. A search for a new weather predicting groundhog will begin in the coming days. Just like that. Wyerton Willie, we hardly knew you.
Bueller.
Regional Council. That is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. I'm looking for some people with a little bit of vision. Who's got a bold idea that they are willing to put forward? Because it sure as hell can't keep coming from the loudmouth on the radio. Please, somebody, get off your laurels and bring us something exciting. I'm desperate for it. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You know that the minute we begin the show every day, our phone lines are open to you. This is the most interactive radio program anywhere in this region. 519-570-2545. Star 570, 1-800-570-5715. I'll go to the phones. Doug is with us. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Mike. You know something? I think your choices of where we're at. I'm reminded of a phrase called the path of least resistance. And people like the easy way out because they don't want to offend voters.
Yeah, but we didn't always do it this way, Doug. Like, what happened to us?
I think the biggest problem is that everybody seems to think that the choices or the avenues to go are all filled in. There's no revolutionary way to go anymore. But it doesn't have to be so revolutionary as much as it has to be an idea that, as you said, brings some excitement to the equation. So I hear you, and considering it's where that site is, I'm really thinking that some kind of a something central that would bring people downtown more so than they have in the past. How they're going to do that, I don't know, but it just seems to me that why parcel it out and waste it?
Well, this is part of my concern. If you're parceling it out one piece at a time, you're missing out on the opportunity for the larger vision, right? Because this development or this developer is working on this part, and then the next part will be worked on by the next. Like, we need a cohesive vision. And bluntly, you want to bring people downtown, build the damn arena there. Like, you bring a sports and entertainment facility into your core right on the Ion line and think of what happens around it. And again, I'm not trying to say by any stretch that housing and affordable, attainable, non-market housing is not important. I'm just saying that every time we've got an opportunity, why is it's just the same thing over and over again, rinse and repeat. I don't know, we got to light a fire in our bellies here. Even if you want to look back at the idea of the downtown shopping malls back in the late 70s, early 80s, right? Market Square, King Center, it failed, but at least they tried it, right? Not everything works. I'll go back to risk or de-risk. Like, I get it. There is risk, especially with big, bold ideas. But if you don't take a risk, you're never going to get a reward. Ask any entrepreneur in this community. And I didn't even bring that aspect of our development, of our growth into this. Look at how we became known as Silicon Valley North. How do you think that happened? Because people sat on their laurels and didn't try something big? No. So where did this spirit of innovation go? We've been talking for decades. What's in the water in Waterloo? Excitement, inspiration. Paul Kalflash is a tremendous writer that talks about the joy of place. I'd like a little more joy in the place instead of just soulless condominium towers. Mary, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Mr. Riled Up. Mike.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm riled up, Mary.
I'm not sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I'm mad, too.
All right.
I've asked about that property a couple of times, and you've always said, I don't know, the region has big plans for it, but they haven't told us. Now we find out they have no big plans.
Oh, for the Wilmot Land Assembly?
No, what are we talking about?
Oh, the Charles Street Terminal.
Well, yeah, I've asked about it many times. We need a convention center. We need, I'm with you all the time on this. I think next time when in the fall, we should vote in a bunch of dreamers.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, let's do that, Mary.
Dreamers.
This is my challenge to regional council. Bring me your dreams. Bring me your dreams.
Yeah, you won't have anything spectacular unless you can dream a bit. Atta
girl, Mary.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Mary's done. You won't have anything spectacular unless you can dream a bit. Again, the University of Waterloo, the Expressway, the existing gorgeous, I love it with every fiber of my being, Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. We didn't get those things by accident, folks. They didn't just appear out of thin air. We had some courage. We had some vision. Andre, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Sorry, bud.
You know what, Andre? Why does everybody just start with laughing? I don't understand. Am I funny? Do I amuse you? Funny how? Maybe Frank thinks I'm less funny. I don't know. Farwell's Force member number 26. Hi, Frank.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm all right.
Good. I don't think the Charles Street Terminal is the only thing we should worry about.
What else should we worry about?
You got that Rona Center sitting empty in Cambridge.
Sure.
There are so many buildings sitting here doing nothing.
I think that one on Hespeler Road, I think there's something planned there, isn't there? There is. I'm positive.
There is.
I'm almost certain. Condominiums, of course, but yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, there's so many homes. My wife and I went for a walk with the fur babies out for a walk last night, and we live in downtown Kitchener, and I cannot believe how many people you see on the street bent over, doing the drugs, doing whatever.
Yeah.
You got to do something for these people.
Frank, I hear you. And look, we can't ignore these things. I'm just saying it seems that we are only focused on the ills. And maybe that's what's sapped our courage and inspiration, because we're just laser focused on the problems. And I think we can do both. George, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How you keeping?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good. I just want to tell you, I think you're kind of nuts.
That's okay.
You know what? I kind of like it. You're making us think. You're making us think for bigger things here in this town. Why can't we do it?
Why can't we, George? All right, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you. There you. Why don't we start there? Why can't we? Right? Why can't we? Or why won't we? Why not us, Waterloo Region? Why not us? An update from the 570 News Center, and then the ice fishing experience that went bad. We'll talk about it next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I was in Windsor on Sunday afternoon, of course, for the Kitchener Rangers-Windsor Spitfires game. Because, on your home of Kitchener Rangers hockey, we cover the team even when they're on the road. Down to Windsor we went. Rangers' 7-game winning streak came to an end in that loss to Windsor. But I bring up Sunday because while there, something else was happening in another OHL city. And it's interesting that a reporter in Owen Sound, who I've gotten to know quite well over the years from my work in the OHL, and he's a great guy, and so I follow him on social media, and it's usually about Owen Sound attack stuff. But in this particular case, it was about the rescue on some ice in Georgian Bay. And of course, you know, the mouth of Georgian Bay is right there. The Chichimon even docks in Owen Sound over the winter, that great ferry that takes you back and forth between Tobermory and Manitoulin Island. Nonetheless, I see Greg Cowan with the Owen Sound Sun-Times talking about these fishermen that were stranded and the OPP_WR helicopter that had to come in and help. And when I saw that initially, I thought WR, that's what we use for Waterloo Region, but it was OPP West Region. Nonetheless, a daring rescue, to say the very least. It wasn't the easiest thing to do. And 23 men out on a piece of ice that broke away and was essentially sailing out into deeper waters. These men were in deep trouble. Here's a little bit, you probably have heard this story by now, and here is one of the ice fishermen involved, a fellow by the name of Kevin Fox.
Water's opening up, ice is opening. Everybody, that ain't good. You're not going to be able to cross it, man. Look how wide it is down there. You can't cross down there. Maybe you got to go the other way. I think we got to go back here. Hey!
That just gives you a sense of what it was like on, I was going to say the water, on the ice when it started to break away. And you can see that's taken from a video that Kevin Fox shot. And you can see these fishermen in full gear moving as quickly as they can to try to get back to safety. Eventually, they needed a rescue. And here is the firsthand account from Kevin Fox after that rescue.
What happened was we ended up hearing that they couldn't put a boat in the water to get us. And then they called Coast Guard, and I guess Coast Guard couldn't get out of the harbor because of rain and I guess debris in the water. So they couldn't access us. And then we're like, okay, now it's going to come down to helicopters. And at one point, someone mentioned that due to the 60 and 80 kilometer an hour gusts of wind, the helicopters couldn't land. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. But when we heard that's when everything changed for everybody, because at that point, we're like, a boat can't get us and a helicopter can't get us. We're okay now, but we're not going to be okay in 2 hours, because as we drift out into the bay, we're going to be in bigger water, bigger waves, and all that ice will end up breaking into tiny pieces. At that moment, yeah, everybody on that ice chunk that I know, and even people that I didn't know, is calling their families. Many people were calling to say goodbye, like saying, tell the kids I love them. And yeah, it was quite emotional, especially seeing someone there, like 19 years old, 20 years old, calling to say goodbye to their parents. The chopper would land. It wouldn't land on the ice, but the pilots were so amazing. They would just barely touch the skis on the ice, and they held it perfectly still, and even in those 60, 80 kilometer an hour gusts of wind, and they were real quick. 1, 2, 3 guys. You weren't bringing any gear. They were just taking people off, and it was really systematic, and it went good. Yeah, once the OPP helicopters started picking up guys, they were taking in groups of 3. For our group, we had a group of 18 that was on the big chunk. They started grabbing us. It went pretty quick. The moment we saw the crack open until we are all on shore, probably 2 hours.
An incredible rescue by emergency responders here in Ontario, led by OPP out of the West Region. And just, I don't know about you, but I get chills down my spine when I hear Kevin Fox talking about people on that ice phoning their families, tell the kids I love them. Like they think these are their final moments. They're doomed, right? Calling your parents, telling them as young as 19 years old. As I understand it, there were a couple in this group of 23 fishers. There were a couple of fishers from Kitchener that were up there at this particular time. If you are one of them or know them, I would love to hear that account. So you get the sense there from Kevin Fox of what the fishermen were going through. They're thinking, nice day for ice fishing. Well, not so much. So the rescue happens. And then OPP Sergeant Ed Sanchuk, I think maybe waves a finger with a little bit of a tisk here.
Is ice fishing on a warm day worth risking your life and the lives of others? Ontario Provincial Police Aviation Services, in collaboration with multiple emergency partners, successfully rescued 23 individuals after a large ice shelf broke away from the shoreline of Georgian Bay this past weekend on Sunday, March 8th. Shortly before this incident, strong winds and shifting ice conditions caused a significant portion of ice to separate, leaving a large group stranded in rapidly deteriorating and dangerous circumstances. OPP Aviation Services deployed 2 helicopters to rescue 23 stranded individuals. Photos taken from the rescue helicopter depicts what the ice conditions were like at that time. The OPP extends its sincere appreciation to all first responders involved in this complex rescue operation, including local fire services, paramedic services, Air Orange, Ministry of Natural Resources, and victim services. Their cooperation, swift response, and coordinated efforts played a critical role in ensuring that everyone was brought to safety without serious injury. The OPP would also like to thank the local business that provided space for triage and warming, allowing responders to assess patients effectively and discreetly. I'd also like to take this opportunity to recognize and say thank you to our OPP helicopter pilots, whose skill and quick actions prevented 23 tragedies and ensured that every person was brought back to shore safely. The OPP is urging the public to stay off unsafe ice. Conditions on Georgian Bay and area lakes can change quickly and without warning. So going on to unstable ice puts your life at risk and forces first responders into dangerous situations that are entirely preventable. No fish is worth your life or the lives of people who have to rescue you. This rescue requires significant resources, and frontline responders were placed at considerable risk. Members of the public are urged to use common sense. Stay informed about weather and ice conditions and avoid venturing onto unsafe or unstable ice. If conditions appear questionable, it's not that complicated. Do not go out. The OPP remains committed to public safety and will continue to work closely with our community partners to respond to emergencies on land, ice, and water. We urge the public to prioritize their own safety and make responsible decisions that prevent avoidable tragedies. Everyone, I'm Sergeant Ed Sanchuk with West Region OPP Headquarters. Please make sure you take care, stay safe, get home safe to your families, and we'll talk to you soon.
Get home safe to your families. An avoidable tragedy. This was preventable. I've never been ice fishing. The idea, though, I don't find it altogether unappealing. Seems kind of cool, to be honest with you. But based on everything that we have heard since and what we just heard there from OPP Sergeant Ed Sanchuk, I'm wondering if what we have here, or what we might have had here, was death by misadventure. This was a daring rescue, to say the least, in not optimum conditions. And it sounds as though the OPP sergeant is saying, hey, like, this was on you. You never should have been out there in the first place. I suspect you probably have more experience with ice fishing or outdoors than I do. What do you make of this situation? I remember being, when I worked in British Columbia a long time ago, avalanches. And when avalanche risk was high, and the warnings that would go out and the signs that would be posted, and yet still some people in their sleds had to go into the fresher powder, going beyond the posted warnings and, getting themselves into trouble. There's always this conversation about whether or not those who are getting rescued ought to pay for the resources that rescued them, et cetera, et cetera. But was this just a near fatal mistake? Was this an honest mistake? I know this much. When I got to Windsor on the weekend, I was taking a walk on the waterfront in my T-shirt. That's how mild it was. So how much do you trust ice, any ice, when the conditions are getting that warm? Not my area of expertise, but I wonder what you make of the story. 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Chris is with us this morning. Good morning, Chris.
Yeah, I think those guys should have known better. What would have happened if one of those helicopters would have crashed?
I know, I was thinking of that too.
Put people in harm's way, so there's lots of point forms here. As far as if my son would have called me from the ice fishing, I would have given him hell for that. Well, HE double hockey sticks, but either way, I would say, what are you doing out there? How much did this cost the taxpayer? What I'd like to know is how much this rescue cost the taxpayer. There has to be something done about people that don't heed the warnings. Like you said, if you're walking around in a T-shirt, gee, something's up, right?
That's how I felt, Chris, and I appreciate the call. Again, I don't know about the thickness of the ice for ice fishing. I don't know if I haven't heard anything about there being any signs posted that the ice was no longer safe for ice fishing. I did read one account because these guys aren't all from Owen Sound. They were coming from further afield to go to a place that they know has good ice fishing, and they had already traveled, in some cases, several hours just to get there. So you're talking 5 to 6 hours round trip, and basically you get there and you're like, well, I'm not gonna waste 5-6 hours of my day and not drop my line in the water. Why would I, quote unquote, waste that time? And in this particular instance, risk be darned. Wasn't I just talking about risk in the first half hour today? Again, I get what risk means. Without risk, there is no reward. In this case, though, boy, oh boy, it was a daring, considering the conditions, I would say a daring rescue. You heard Kevin Fox talk about how those helicopter pilots just kept their blades just above the ice surface and kept that thing steady so people could pile on 3 at a time and get the heck back to safety. That's a pretty impressive job of piloting there. Kevin is also with us this morning on the phone. Good morning, Kevin.
Hi, good morning, Mike. Well, here is a kind of a puzzling part for me about this situation. I understand if there are two guys going ice fishing, they get stuck on the ice and, need rescue. 2-3 people. We're talking about 25 mature people and 25 brain that didn't think of that. That's a sad part. The number of the people who were involved and none of them actually thought about the danger is there. Again, if there's 2 guys getting drunk, going ice fishing, or 3 buddies going, I understand, it was just something in the moment they made a decision. But this is like a group. This is like an experienced group of fishermen, and if you cannot estimate the danger of how thin the ice is, then I don't think you're a good fisherman. I'm sorry to say that. I don't think you're good at what you're doing. You're so unexperienced.
Kevin, appreciate that call. It's an interesting point. I hadn't thought of it through that lens. 23 guys, and not one of them thought, maybe this isn't the best of ideas. And you know what this makes me think of? This makes me think a little bit about our healthcare system, or as I like to call it, our sick care system, because I don't think we invest enough in encouraging prevention. Instead, what we have is a system that's there to take care of us when we get sick. And inevitably, we will all have our entry point to that system. It seems unavoidable. But I think we could prolong our entry point into that system, couldn't we? I mean, we can just walk into any store when we're a certain age and buy cigarettes. We can buy alcohol till our heart's content. We can do a lot of things. There was a stretch. I won't be too hard on the road and the restaurants that are on it. It's changed over time. But there was a stretch of road in Kitchener that I used to call Heart Attack Alley, given all of the fast food joints that were along that particular stretch of road. I mean, there's lots of things that we do to ourselves with, in the back, because in the back of our minds, it's we've got a healthcare system, or as I call it, a sick care system. Maybe this is just part of the social contract. Yeah, I can do something that's a little bit or a lot risky, but hey, I live in Ontario where I'm going to have a rescue team at my disposal if something goes sideways. First world problem, I guess. I don't know. Joe, good morning.
Morning, Mike. I don't agree with your callers that are calling in to rag on the people that walked out on the ice. That's just a freak thing, and it really comes down to the geography and the topography of George and Bray that can possibly happen. I walk on the ice all the friggin' time, and this is one of my favorite times of year. We go out with the dogs, but you got to have your head about you. That's all you have to have your wits about you, and you need to know the ice, and you need to have some experience. But I even if I was out there with those guys, the last thing I'd be thinking is, oh, I'm going to die today. No, I'd just be, okay, well, let's figure out what we're going to do from here. And and see if where the wind's going to take us. If it's going to drop us on the other side of the bay, we'll see. I don't know if I'd be freaking out about dying. The ice is so friggin' thick, it's unbelievable. You can drive a truck on it. But, that I don't agree with your other callers there that are criticizing these people. That's just a freak thing. It's like lottery odds if that ever happens again.
All right, Joe. I appreciate the call. I mean, OPP sees it differently, and they shared some aerial photography of what the ice looked like. And remember, what Joe's saying about floating to the other side. There was no other side to float to. You were heading out into the bay, and that ice obviously was not going to survive beneath you. Kevin Fox, who's pretty experienced at this guy's got his own ice fishing outdoor adventure page. That's where I found most of the background from him on this story. So he is certainly not inexperienced, and he figured they had 2 hours left had they not been rescued by those helicopters. Whose side do you land on with this? I mean, Joe says we shouldn't be so hard on these guys. OPP Sergeant Ed Sanchuk says, hey, this was entirely preventable. Was this a big mistake or just a freak circumstance? We'll continue taking your calls after this on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It was a daring rescue handled expertly by OPP rescue crews on the weekend in Owen Sound. 23 ice fishers, except the ice broke away, and they were in deep doo-doo until the helicopters arrived. OPP Sergeant Ed Sanchuk says this was a preventable situation, and he was saying, is catching a fish worth your life? Because these 23 men almost lost their lives. Let's go back to the phones, hear more from you. Sandy, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So I live in Elmira now, but we've got our cottage right pretty much where that ice break happened. And your last caller was speaking about knowing the topography and how the water is. And if you know Georgian Bay out there, you know that it's not predictable. Going out on February when it's minus 30 for 3 weeks in a row is a lot different than going out when it's been plus 15 and it's March. We had our kids out making an ice rink over Family Day, and even that I was standing close by and making sure they were close to shore because it's just such unpredictable water. I mean, it's one thing Georgian Bay's been known for centuries. So I think they should have weighed the risks and reward differently. You had mentioned having driven all that way and wanting to fish up there, but there's other places to fish all along the Owen Sound Harbor. If you got up there and saw it wasn't maybe safe to do so, they had other options, and they put not only their lives at risk, but I have OPP members in our family, and you're putting all those families at risk as well when you make a decision like that. So I've talked to other ice fishermen I know, and they said there's no way they would have done anything like that.
Sandy, really appreciate the perspective. Thanks for calling today.
Thanks, Mike. Take care. You
too. Great to hear from you, and somebody that knows the water pretty well up there. Sarah, good morning.
Hi, good morning. So I'm from Northern Ontario, and the ice, of course, in North is a lot different in Southern Ontario. But Georgian Bay, again, it's unpredictable because it's a big open water, right? It's not a regular small lake that can freeze over. But in Northern Ontario, they don't do this anymore because they're not allowed to, but they used to put a car out on the lake, and when the car sunk, your car would no longer be insured when it went out onto the lake, which is pretty neat. I think they should still put some sort of a weight out, so when that weight sinks, you know that you're not allowed out on the lake.
What a great idea! That's a great idea. Put a big heavy buoy out there or something.
Exactly, and that when that sinks, it's the marker saying that the lake is unsafe.
Yeah, you know what, Sarah? I love it, and I got to run to news, but another great perspective from somebody that knows a thing or two about the ice in northern parts of this province. And let's be honest, Owen sounds like central Ontario, right? It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is that time of the week on our show where we check in on our nation's capital and mind Ottawa's business with the Blacklocks reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering our nation's capital. And Tom Korski is the managing editor there who joins us for these chats every Wednesday morning just after the 10 o'clock news. Mr. Korski, good morning.
Morning, Mike.
Our finance minister is promising we're going to get our financial house in order when it comes to spending. Should I take comfort in these words, Tom?
Well, they are, as Jagmeet Singh of the New Democrats used to say, they are pretty words. But the Senate National Finance Committee was not impressed because they looked at the record. The finance minister said there has to be some discipline restored to federal financing. Though he was there for the last 10 years, where there were constantly, they rarely, in fact, I'm trying to think of a time in 10 years when they met a deficit target, and some of the misses were spectacular. Let's see. Last year, they projected a $27 billion deficit, came in at $78 billion. Shocking, said one budget officer at the time. Year before that, they projected the $40 billion deficit, came in at 52, so about 30% higher. This year, they had projected $31 billion, and the current estimate is double that, $65 billion. So there was a senator, Elizabeth Marshall, she is a former provincial auditor from Newfoundland and Labrador, said, you have no credibility, your debt's exploding, what's the plan? They didn't get a plan, but... Mike, everyone's watching this. You know, their internal polling shows that the deficit is not high on Canadians' radar when it comes to pressing issues. Fair enough. But anyone who's been around this town more than 20 minutes knows that that's the sort of thing that can really bite you and hurt very, very badly, and it always does. It always ends the same way.
Who needs fiscal guardrails anyway, Tom?
Honestly, we're 19 years without a balanced budget. And that's getting long in the tooth. That's not a good sign.
It certainly isn't. Maybe a parliamentary budget officer will help. You and I talked about this last week, and it seemed as though the office would not be held again, but that's been overturned, and the parliamentary budget officer will be reinstated?
Well, there is a new nominee named. Her name is Mrs. Ryan, the former Associate Assistant Deputy Finance Minister, not a public figure, not a household name, but there is a coalition of MPs, and it's not just Conservatives, include some Bloc members, who said, game on. The Cabinet really essentially fired the last budget officer because he made life difficult for them. His name was Jason Jakes, and he described federal overspending, which we just discussed, as stupefying, unsustainable, very reckless. He went on, Cabinet not like, so they got rid of him when his contract came up. And just last night, the Commons Government Operations Committee voted to reinstate the man that Cabinet dismissed. So that sends a message, and the message is that's enough from you. So everything is going to be a big fight now. This office has really been politicized now, Mike. It's going to get hot.
Okay, let's stay on the dollars and cents for just another moment here, Tom, because, again, something else we've talked about before, and I think Canadians generally understand. When we say, as a nation, as a federal government, we are going to meet that NATO spending target on defense of 2%. It's a pretty big number, and how are we going to get there? I guess we have a little bit of the detail as to how?
Through access to information. It's not gonna cheer you up, Mike. What did they do? We can see through access to information, the Department of Defense turned this into kind of a game of three-card Monte at the county fair. They started coming up with different ways for creative accounting to meet their 2% target for military preparedness, spending on national defense, the minimum NATO requirement. Well, they didn't meet the minimum NATO requirement. They missed it by several billions. But the figures they came up with were highly entertaining. My favorite was they included $200,000 for landscaping at Army bases for tree planting. They were going to plant some bushes at Camp Shiloh, and they were going to include that in their national defense budget. They also included pensions for civilian employees of the Coast Guard. Never included that before. What also went into the NATO hopper? They scraped that $3 million grant for upgrading a water treatment plant in Saguenay, Quebec. You may say, how will that keep the Russians at bay? But it became it became creative accounting, Mike.
Oh, yeah. So submarines, fighter jets, that's okay. We have nice landscaped areas around our military bases. There you go.
He literally counted trees. The defense minister counted the trees. He did.
Okay, a couple of more interconnected items here I wanted to talk to you about because, boy, oh boy, it's an interesting time to be doing the kind of work that we do, especially you with Blacklock's reporter. And we'll start with Travis Donraj, who claims, he's a former journalist, had worked at the CBC for a while, if I'm not mistaken. He claims there are dozens of public figures who are banned from being interviewed.
Spectacular testimony at the Commons Heritage Committee, Mike. He did, Mr. Donraj used to host a program on their all-news channel until he was constructively dismissed, demoted, he left. He's currently in litigation with the network. MPs fell silent as Mr. Donraj testified that there is an active blacklist. This is almost Nixonian, but he said it. There's an active blacklist. There's a guide called Parameters for Political Guests on who shall and who shall not be allowed on the air, and an active blacklist, he said, of 45 individuals by name that are forbidden from ever being interviewed. MPs, especially the opposition caucus, said, do tell, would you be prepared to table that for the committee's benefit? And Mr. Donraj replied, yes, I will. Everyone wants to see the Nixon enemies list that is active at the CBC. It was really something, Mike.
And yet he hasn't tabled it yet, right?
Well, he has to table it, then it has to be translated into both official languages, trust me. This is coming out. They would love to keep this a secret. We asked the CBC for the guide and the list. You can imagine their response. This is coming. There's no way this is keeping secret.
I cannot wait to see who is on that list.
Okay. Dandy.
It will be. Okay, so you asked the CBC to see this list. It's not the only time, though, Tom, that you and the Blacklock's reporter have issued a request for interview and been denied. Little bit of trouble getting interviews requests returned these days, Mr. Korski?
We've been blacklisted for years. The Bank of Canada won't take our questions. Department of Immigration, I can't remember that. But what's new is, and startling, is God bless them, the Department of Immigration actually put this in writing. This is the thing about the CBC blacklist. Everyone knows there's blacklisting, but most people are smart enough not to put it in writing. Not so the Department of Immigration. They not only put this in black and white, they put it on a website on who they will take questions from and who they will not. And if you do not meet government criteria that is applied to newsrooms that seek federal subsidies, no question for you, my little friend. Can you believe that?
No.
I was shocked, and we asked them for comment, and they didn't have any comment because we never applied for subsidies.
See, the thing is, though, Tom, even absent their comment, that story is still going to be published.
Of course it will, and we've explained this to them. You say, look, let's just talk about the trade. When we have an access to information report, I have had to explain this to a couple of government functionaries, some of the slower ones over the years. So, we're going to publish the story anyway. I don't need you to translate it for me. If you don't choose to comment, then the story says you didn't comment. So it's not obvious to me why this is not a completely counterintuitive policy for a department. But that is what we're getting down to in Ottawa. We have the white list, and you're the good boys, especially the ones who take the subsidies, and we have the blacklist. Imagine, Mike, this is now normalized in Ottawa in 2026 on the CBC. White lists, blacklists. Unbelievable.
I fear it's not contained to just the nation's capital. It will spread.
Oh, man.
Tom, keep up the great work. Always appreciate the chats.
Thank you, Mike.
Tom Korski is the managing editor at the Blacklock's Reporter, the only reporter-owned and operated newsroom covering our nation's capital. You can find it online, blacklocks.ca. Very interesting stuff there, and well worth your subscription. I'm really concerned about this idea that there is, first of all, the list of public figures who shall not be interviewed. I would be very curious. I am very curious as to the names on that list. And then, of course, the reasons for not interviewing. But even more so when a request for comment is submitted and essentially denied for whatever reason. And I struggle with this. And I'll tell you what. We have been encountering that from time to time in this part of the world as well. And quite frankly, I do not understand it. It doesn't make sense to me that you wouldn't at least offer your side of something when a story is going to be brought to air anyway. And I'm hopeful that we're not too far down the road that we can't reverse course here. But more and more public institutions and government institutions seem to think that the best course of action is just to ignore it and we're going to let it go away. Sports institutions, oh my goodness gracious. So I don't know. And really, ignore it and it will go away. I mean, we, the royal we in this business, are so ding-dang busy going from one thing to the next thing. And there are two reasons for that. One is there are fewer and fewer of us, right? So there's more work for the individuals who remain in this business to do. And number two is we've created this beast that we know as the 24-hour news cycle that just keeps churning it out. And once it's been on the air for about 6 hours or so, well, that's old now. Let's get the new thing. And we just keep chasing that new thing, and that other thing just gets left behind. And I think that makes it easier sometimes for those agencies and institutions to not respond. I know I'm the old guy in the room. But I have grave concern about the direction that this seems to be headed. Tom Korski, managing editor, the Blacklocks reporter, joins us every Wednesday morning just after the 10 a.m. news as we mind Ottawa's business here on the show. We're going to take a break. When we come back, your daily reminder that not everybody is a jackwagon. Oh, there are jackwagons out there, believe you me, but not everybody is a jackwagon. I'll share the story coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I'm sure that you know by now how a show like this works, right? We talk about the issues of the day, usually things that are of concern to us. It can be rather therapeutic. I mean, we leave our open hour every day, noon until 1, for you to get things off your chest and onto the air. And sometimes it's all you really need to get through to the next issue that's chafing at your chaps. Just get it off your chest. That's what I mean by it can be therapeutic. But you might be inclined to come to the conclusion, if you pay too much attention to a show like this, and I want you to keep paying attention, believe you me, but you might be inclined to arrive at the conclusion that everybody, like we are just surrounded by jackwagons, right? But we're not. There are jackwagons out there, and it seems that they have an amplified voice, right? An outsized voice, because when they do something in their jackwagon-like ways, it gets under our skin. We might vent about it, and then you start thinking, oh, everybody is a jackwagon. So every day on this show, right at this time, I like to remind you that all is not lost. There's plenty of good still in humanity, and it's a segment that I affectionately refer to as Not Everyone is a Jackwagon, including the waitress at TGI Fridays who goes viral on TikTok. Like, what could be more American than that? Brittany Bell stepped in when she noticed a toddler about to have a meltdown at her TGI Fridays in the Atlanta airport. Brittany just wanted to help out a tired mom. So she picked up this boy and she carried him around the restaurant, and Brittany and this youngster were waiting on tables still, and he got a tour around the back into the kitchen, even got himself some cherries from that kitchen just to try to calm this kid down and give mom a break. Mom was tired. Mom welcomed the break, but she wasn't too tired to take out her phone and capture the entire thing so she could post it online.
She was going above and beyond, and I think a lot of parents wanted to support her and rally around her because they also know how hectic and stressful it is to travel with kids. And so everybody just wanted to show her a generous moment and just give her a blessing.
Show her a generous moment, give her a blessing. That blessing comes in the form of people who saw mom's video and wanted to do something for the waitress, Brittany Bell. So an online fundraiser was created. It was lovingly called the Princess Bell Fund, and it raised $12,000.
It actually touched my heart because, we live in a world full of chaos and negativity, and you don't see that much positivity on the internet like that no more unless it's chaotic and full of drama. And it touched me that strangers reached out and I want to help fund you to do something positive in your life.
Now, Brittany is going to use the money to help a foundation that supports mothers who face a difficult medical diagnosis during pregnancy. She and the tired mom that she helped out have partnered to create T-shirts to raise money for mothers in crisis. Across the front of that T-shirt, "I love you" is written in sign language. On the back, it reads, "Kindness is the cure." It sure is. And it might even get you $12,000 that you can then use to spread even more kindness. And that is your daily reminder, courtesy of this show, that not everybody is a jackwagon. We're about 6 minutes away from your update in the 570 News Center. If you were with us at the beginning of the show today, first of all, thank you, because you're still with us now, almost 90 minutes in. And I love me my 9 a.m.ers, but just in case you weren't with us at the beginning, I was expressing my frustration with our regional council and their slow and steady and small c conservative, ultra-conservative, ultra-cautious approach to the redevelopment of our Charles Street bus terminal in downtown Kitchener. I think there's massive opportunity here where we can dream big, envision something that's exciting for our community instead of, more of the same. And Clinton sends me an email to Mike at 570news.com, says, what in the double hockey sticks is going on with our city and regional councils? They keep talking about planning for the future, using that logic to justify securing 700 acres in Wilmot for potential manufacturing, yet they ignore the future of downtown Kitchener. They want skyscrapers, but you can't build vertical communities without the amenities and attractions that make people actually want to live there. No one dreams of the 50th floor in a generic city with generic amenities. Clinton, you read my mind. His email goes on. We need councillors with real vision, and the current group doesn't seem to have it. There are far better locations for affordable housing than the Charles Street terminal, including the vacant land across from the new Waterloo Police Station at Lexington and Weber, the vacant land across from Hillside Park at Lexington and Marsland. Both are large, underused, and far more suitable. I like what you're thinking, Clinton, and that's why I issued a challenge to anybody on regional council this morning at the beginning of the show. Bring me your big vision, your bold ideas, bring me your dreams. Enough of this snail's pace, ultra-cautious approach to things. That's not how big things get done. And I cited several big things that got done in this community in the past. The current Kitchener Memorial Auditorium, envisioned 80 years ago, fourth largest arena at the time in Ontario. How about the University of Waterloo? People thought Jerry Hagee and Ira Needles were nuts when they were assembling all this land out there in farmland in Waterloo. How about the Expressway? Envisioned some 65 years ago in this community. Where are those big, bold ideas and the courage to see them through? I challenge anyone on regional council, to show us that courage, to share that vision. This is an election year. Maybe somebody's got some big ideas for us before October. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, we are now just days away from the 71st annual Kinsman TV auction. It's going to happen on Saturday on Rogers TV, but it's also an opportunity for you to bid online, and that bidding for online opens today, if I'm not mistaken. In studio with me, a couple of members of the Kin Club of Kitchener-Waterloo. Drew Lang is here. Always good to see you, Drew. Good morning.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
It's an absolute pleasure. Chris Van Vliet comes along, too. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Mike. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. You know, Drew, we were saying, just as Matt was doing the news, that it feels like just yesterday we were talking about the 70th annual
which was
auction.
A big milestone for us, right?
And now here we
at
are.
71. And soon it'll be over.
And it wasn't that long ago, too, that you were here kind of setting the table for what was to come. And now, how are you feeling 72 hours before TV auction day?
We're feeling pretty good, Mike. We've got 216 items on the docket this year. Got the new website. Everything seems to be flowing good. You know, I'm sure we'll run into some glitches, but we always get through it. And it's a great cause, right? Raising some money for the community. So
absolutely. Yeah. Chris, can you give us an idea of some of those 200 plus items that are available?
Well, there is an abundance of restaurant gift cards for various places, from Hong Kong Seafood to the Victoria Street Eateries, which is Kelsey's, the Whale and Ale Pub in Rustico. There's grocery gift cards from various donors. And things for your home. There's a few different types of lights available, some home improvement options like gift certificates for countertops, things like that. And we actually have some obscure items as well. This year, we had a donation of a crawler, which is for working on your car. It's a 3-position crawler, so you can have it as a seat, or you can lay it out flat and roll right under your vehicle.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And, you know, Drew, we talk about all of these items, 200 plus. They don't just magically appear. Like, what kind of legwork goes into securing all of these items for the auction?
So early in our kin year, which is, we started meeting in September, so we start putting our kits together, and we start making phone calls to our donors that have donated back. Each year after year after year, we have some donors that have been with us for 50 plus years. There's not a lot of them, but they're still there, right? And then, but we get a lot of guys that are making the calls. We got to do some cold calls. We try to hit some new businesses. It's a lot of work. It's a struggle with the way that the economy is these days. But, you know, we're very thankful for all the donors that have supported us for this year's auction and years past.
Well, and one of the things about something like this, I hear you about the difficult economic times, but when we place our bids in this auction, not only are we getting access to all these different items, but so we get something that we need, but the money's going to charity. Like, that's the thing about this, right? So, yeah. What kinds of initiatives do you support through Kin KW?
So we've got a few different things that we raise that the money from this does, and other stuff that we do is KW Rehabilitation is one of them. Cystic fibrosis is another one that we donate to. And that's not just a local club project, that's Canada-wide through Kin Canada. We do minor sports teams. We do single requests if, you know, sometimes someone needs a wheelchair or assistance and stuff. You know, just send a letter to the club and, you know, we get our name, Ray of Hope. We do Christmas dinners and Easter dinners and that kind of stuff. There's all kinds that we put back into the community.
Chris, I know one of the things that you guys have refined over the years is the whole collection/pickup process. If we're a successful bidder on any of these items, you make it pretty easy for us to get that item.
Absolutely. During COVID, that was a big thing afterwards. So we redid our pickup situation. Now it's a drive-through. You know, you enter off 108 Sydney Street, roll up to the doors of KW Rehabilitation Center. We get your name. After that, we gather your items, take payment, put them in the car for you, and you drive right off onto Ottawa Street.
Yeah, it's perfect. So 108 Sydney is the place where we're going to go, kind of pull through that parking lot at KW Hab, out the other side. Simple for us if we're the prize winner. A little bit more difficult logistically on all of you who are going to be working Saturday when the live TV auction is happening as well.
Yes. There's going to be a half dozen or so members and volunteers at Rogers TV. And then other members and volunteers are going to be at the center during the day, getting things ready for pickups and helping with those callbacks for all successful bidders, so we can get a time slot of when they want to come pick up their items that they win.
Okay, so let's get down to the brass tacks of this, Drew. We've got more than 200 items. The online bidding opens today. The TV auction's happening on Saturday. Walk us through the details so we know how we can see these items, place our bids.
Yep. So today at 3:00 p.m., our online bidding opens up. So we encourage bidders to go to the site because it is only online bidding now. We're not doing, in previous years, we've done phone bids. We're not doing that. The phone support will only be there for technical support to assist people on getting them logged into the website. It's a new website, new bidding site. It's all in one site now. Previous years, you had to go flip between the two of them. You can see all the items, click on an item, place a bid. Once the bid's successful, you'll get an email response that your bid was successful. And you'll also get an email if you were outbid, which is, we're bringing it up in technology. So you can keep bidding from today at 3 p.m. right up until the auction ends on Rogers around 3 p.m. We're going to keep the bidding open till 3:15, then it'll be a dead stop lock. At 3:15, it'll shut down. So you have up until 3 p.m. or 3:15 on Saturday to place those bids. From now till then. And then once that is completed, we will gather all the information of the successful bidders, and then we will start our callbacks. And then pickups will probably start somewhere in around 6 p.m. on Saturday, and then we have some blocks on Saturday, and then we'll have some blocks on Sunday as well, too.
Okay.
For people that can't make it Saturday.
So the website is kwkin.com.
That's correct.
I'm right there right now looking, and there's 213 products. So, I see a golf bag, I see snowshoes, I see experiences for Chicopee, snowmobile jackets, the wine cellar. It just goes on and on. Golf, baseball, Schwaben Club for Oktoberfest. I should just read all of them out.
There's lots there, Mike. And then up in the top right corner of that website, you'll see a login to bid section. That's where you register, and it walks you through it. And then once you're registered, you're good to go.
Okay, kwkin.com, once again, is the site. Really easy. And exactly what Drew said, that login to bid in the top right. Easy to find, easy to go through. For the televised portion, what time are we on Saturday?
So we start at 11 a.m. at Rogers, and then we go till almost 3 or in around 3.
Yeah. So. And this also, Chris, over the years, it's become a pretty well-oiled machine. I've had the chance to be in studio, and I will be with you guys a little bit again this weekend, but the support that you get from Rogers is just fantastic.
Yeah. Rogers has really helped us out over the past few years. It's gotten to be a well-oiled machine. The first couple of years were a little rocky when we switched over to Rogers, but it's been working really well, especially with our producer there, David.
It's David Eguiar usually does it, right? Yeah, great guy. I've worked with him a lot over the years, and that gives people a chance. If they're not on the computer looking at it, there'll be KIN members will be on TV, Rogers TV 20 from 11 until 3 on Saturday, telling you all about these items, and there'll be graphics up on the TV screen too.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody that doesn't have a Rogers cable package, you can always watch online too, going to rogerstv.com and selecting the Kitchener or Waterloo region selection for viewership.
Right.
Yeah, there will be a live stream this year too. So if you don't have an account, and we'll also be linking that, we're going to try and have that onto our website. So if you're on the website, you can click on it and you'll be able to watch it live.
All right. Let me just address for a moment people that don't have a Rogers account. Like, what are you doing here? Come on with your coming on. Just support the big red machine over here because, they do sign the paychecks after all. Okay, it's the 71st annual Kinsman TV auction, Saturday from 11 until 3 on Rogers TV. And at 3 this afternoon, bidding opens online. You can get started early, kwkin.com. Are you ready for this, Drew?
We are. Bid high, people. Bid high.
Any idea how much you raised last year?
Last year, I think we were close to 17,000, 15 to 17,000, something like that, after all the expenses and everything.
Yeah,
so
that's good. It's a nice number, and that goes directly into community
back
initiatives.
into the community.
Yeah. Chris, how you feeling? You ready?
I am ready. We'll be nervous on that first table I do, but it always is. But after that, it's smooth sailing.
I'm glad you only bring me in for third table then, because you get all the bumps out of the way, and I'll just cruise in like a champ. It'll be easy.
But you
for
do
me.
this every day, Mike, so it's like a walk in the park for you.
You make it so easy on me, and truly, I mean, we've talked about this before. Cystic fibrosis is very near and dear to my heart, and kin clubs across this country have long been supporters. We certainly appreciate that, the royal we from Cystic Fibrosis. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing both of you on Saturday.
Sounds great. Thank you, Mike. Likewise.
Thanks, Mike. Drew Lang and Chris Van Vliet, members of the Kin Club of Kitchener-Waterloo, the 71st annual. The tradition continues with the TV auction Saturday from 11 until 3. Rogers TV Cable 20. If you don't have the cable package, just rogerstv.com, select Waterloo Region, and starting this afternoon at 3, you can start bidding online. More than 200 items. Every bid is a donation back into our community. Go to kwkin.com. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is the beautiful Cambridge Arts Theatre on Water Street South in Cambridge, where the curtain will rise in about a month's time on a community on-stage production of Hello, Dolly. And here to tell us more about it is the director of the show, Jennifer Mountain. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning.
And along with Jennifer, one of the cast members in Hello, Dolly, Karina Dunn joins us as well. Karina, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit more about the show itself? What's Hello, Dolly all about?
So, Hello, Dolly is a musical adaptation of the play The Matchmaker. So, the story revolves around Dolly Levi. She is a matchmaker of self-proclamation. So, she likes to essentially manipulate people's lives to match make and get them things that they aspire to. So her main goal, though, is to try and snag herself the Yonkers, New York, half-a-millionaire Horace Van de Gelder, while she's sending him on these matchmaking expeditions with these other ladies, but also sabotaging those expeditions at the same time, all in the hopes that she and he will eventually get together.
I love the self-proclaimed matchmaker, right? Because you start with that premise and then hijinks just ensue.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell me, Jennifer, about directing a show like this on a stage like we have at the Cambridge Arts Theatre.
So it is a golden age musical, so it is a larger scale musical, multiple locations, big, gigantic dance numbers, all that fun stuff. And the Cambridge Arts Theatre is a more intimate stage, so there is a lot of creativity involved in staging a larger production like Hello, Dolly on a smaller stage. It's got its challenges, but it's going to be a fantastic show. We've found ways to work around keeping the set somewhat minimalistic so that we can have all these different locations without having to have these massive set changes because we don't have the ability to fly anything in and out. We don't have massive wings like they would have in some of the larger theaters in the area. But it's been a challenge. I am enjoying every moment of it. Like you said, we're about a month away, so we're well into running the show in rehearsal now. So, yeah, it's been fun, and I'm really looking forward to these last few weeks of directorship to be able to get the show really polished to get it onto that stage.
It's one of my favorite parts about the live theater. Once those lights dim and the magic begins, and then how you and the rest of the the production side, Jennifer, will, imagine that show for the space that you have. It's all part of the experience and the artistry, really.
Absolutely.
Karina, you're in the cast. What role are you playing?
I'm playing Dolly.
You are playing Dolly.
Yeah.
And so you are responsible for most of the hijinks here.
A good number of them.
Jennifer just mentioned that you're into rehearsal time. Take me through the process of getting ready for the curtain rising on April the 10th. Where are you at in that, and what still lies ahead?
Okay. Well, we are currently running the show in rehearsals, but it's still rough because we're still learning and polishing stuff as we go. I've got a good number of my lines down, but not all of them, so there's still a lot of work to do on that. But right now, it's so much fun just being with the cast in rehearsal and playing with the characters and just exploring still. And just in the next month, we'll be polishing everything up and getting it ready. What experiences do you draw on as an actor, Karina, to portray Dolly on stage? Well, she's a fun character, and she's a little bit flirty, and I might have been a little bit flirty in my younger years, so I can draw on that a little bit. But she's someone who loves to see everybody happy, and that's me for sure. So just, the way that she manipulates things is sometimes a little bit, questionable, but all in the name of having everybody find their happy ending at the end.
Isn't that one of the fun parts, though, about stepping into a role, right? Because even if you would never manipulate anybody in real life, you get the chance to just play with that character a little bit when you get on stage.
Absolutely. The most fun characters to play are the ones that are not like yourself.
Very interesting. When did the acting bug first bite for you, Karina?
Oh, I was about 13, I think, when it bit.
And so what other roles have you played over time, or do you have a favorite?
Oh, I think one of my favorites is probably Annie Wilkes from, oh my goodness, no, I've drawn a blank.
I should know my theater better to help on that. Annie Wilkes.
I can't believe I just drawn a blank on that. Also, though, another show with Cause, with Community on Stage, I did a few years ago. I played the Wicked Witch of the West.
Excellent.
In, Wizard of Oz, that was super fun. Mary Shelley from Bloody Poetry. So Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein, I played her in Bloody Poetry. So there's a lot of roles. Misery, that's the word I was trying to
Oh, there you go. The Kathy Bates, of course.
Yeah. So all the roles that, are not like me.
I was going to say, my goodness, there's a bit of a dark side there, Karina.
Yeah. Yes, I've never broken anybody's legs, I promise.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. And of course, we always say, metaphorically, break a leg when you're on stage, but we don't mean that literally either. Jennifer, we mentioned April the 10th. Tell us more about how we can get tickets and join you at the theater when it opens on April the 10th.
Absolutely. So we are at the Cambridge Arts Theatre, downtown Galt on Water Street. The show runs April 10th through April 18th. We have 1:30 shows and 7:30 shows. Tickets are available on our website at www.communityonstage.com.
Really look forward to another great presentation at the beautiful Cambridge Arts Theatre. Thank you both for making time for the show this morning and what you bring to our community. I'm very passionate about the arts, particularly live theater. We need this stuff in our lives. So thanks for doing it, and I hope you have a great show.
Thank you so much.
Jennifer Mountain and Karina Dunn joining us. Jennifer is the director, and Karina will play Dolly in the Community on Stage presentation of Hello, Dolly. The curtain rises on Friday, April the 10th. You can learn more and get your tickets at communityonstage.com. Just another one of those theater companies that are doing some great work in our community and inspiring us through their artistry. So communityonstage.com is the place to go. Hello, Dolly starts on Friday, April the 10th and runs through April the 18th with both evening and matinee shows. We're coming up on 11 a.m. and your update from the 570 News Center. It's a busy hour ahead, including in just over 30 minutes time after the 11:30 news. We're going to talk about the time change And I'm trying to resist, again, calling it the goofy time change. But let's be honest, it's goofy. The fact that we change clocks twice a year is one of the goofiest things in modern times, as far as I'm concerned. We'll talk to somebody that knows far more than I, and who may even be along the same thinking as I when it comes to the time change. Like, maybe we could just stop doing it. So that's just over 30 minutes from now. But after this update from the 570 News Center, let's talk by-elections and floor crossings. Who said federal politics was boring? This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, we knew as this week began that 3 federal by-elections had been called by Prime Minister Mark Carney to happen next month. And wouldn't you know, just last night, while most of us slept, Prime Minister Carney was also successful in recruiting another new member to his party, making the prospects of a Liberal majority in Parliament all the more likely. So the stars have aligned perfectly for our conversation this morning with our good friend Peter Wollstonecroft, who is a retired professor of political science from the University of Waterloo. Peter, top of the morning to you, sir.
Oh, top of the morning to you too, Mike.
The by-elections, if we'll start there, 2 of the 3 seem to be very safe Liberal ridings, Bill Blair's former riding and Chrystia Freeland's former riding in Toronto. But the Montreal area riding is a very interesting one, considering the 1-vote margin of victory in the last election.
Yes, and an interesting story is that Elections Canada messed it up because they put the wrong mailing address on the return envelope, and it took a bit of time, but the courts ruled that this was an invalid election and it has to be redone. And so it is going to be an interesting night because this area has been blocked for a considerable period. It was won by 1 vote last time, but there were some voters whose ballots were not counted because they never got to the polling Elections Canada. So it's going to be a big contest because both the Liberals want to win the seat, of course, and so does the Bloc. It's in their political interest to win, and they're riding a bit of a positive ride or a positive wave for the separatists, sovereigntists in Quebec, so they may benefit from that. So yeah, the first 2 by-elections, as you mentioned, it'd be absolutely astonishing. We'd have to give up talking about this stuff if the Liberals lost those 2 seats.
Yes, they are about as safe can get for the federal Liberals, that's for sure. And I guess, Peter, one of the things that we often hear when there is a minority parliament is the saber rattling from the opposition that, you know, an election will be triggered at any time. And there were some suggestions that said election could be triggered this spring, maybe in the fall. I guess if we're having these by-elections, that prospect is off the table, at least for now?
Well, a little bit, but you don't know. Are there dissatisfied Liberals? Well, right now they're not, but who knows what comes along, and unexpected things happen. I mean, so we have an NDP member of Parliament who's crossed the floor to join the Liberals, and that's a big surprise. Well, are there other surprises coming? I mean, I'm not predicting there will be, but so it's a tight margin. You have to appoint a speaker, so it's always going to be a matter of, is everybody there who's supposed to be there? So things happen, and but it gives a certain certainty to the Liberals, and that's what they want. And by the way, I'm happy about floor crossers. I think it's great when it happens.
Peter, I wanted to talk to you about this. I know we're on opposite sides. Come on now. I know it's been going on since the time of Sir John A., but that doesn't make it right.
No, but it doesn't make it wrong either. And No, here's the argument. We live in a highly disciplined party system. So the Liberals run things that way. So do the Conservatives. So does the NDP when it's in office. So everything rests in the leader and the leader's office, whether it's the Premier's office or the Prime Minister's office. And ordinary members of Parliament don't have much of a say in things. And many MPs get to Ottawa and discover that despite their aspirations, nobody pays them much attention and nobody knows who they really are. And it takes a long time for them to establish any role. And one of the most important things that a party leader has to do is to maintain the party's support in Parliament, and so that means you pay attention to members of Parliament. And and if they're dissatisfied, then you have to deal with that. And when people cross the floor, that's a very important message to the leadership of the party that there's something really wrong here. And I take that as a good sign. Now, political science research would say that of all the parliamentary systems, we have the most centralized version in Canada, and yet we live in a very diverse and heterogeneous society. So there's a clash there between our political system and our way our society is organized.
Couldn't we at least hold a by-election to see if the people who elected you to office as a Conservative or an NDP would elect you again as a member of the Liberals?
Yeah, and some people talk about that. I don't get too excited. Some political scientists have proposed that there should be a cooling off period of 60 days or 90 days, so you can't do anything. I put a great primacy upon the independence of the member of Parliament. So in both those points, I say let the MP decide. The MP, he or she will, if they run the next election, will have to answer for their behavior. Fine, fair enough. It's a big issue a big matter to cross the floor. But take the case to the MP from Nunavut. It makes perfect sense to me. She comes from a part of the country where there isn't a party culture as we would understand it in this part of the country. And she's looking around and saying, well, what am I doing here? I belong to a party that's going nowhere and won't be going anywhere in my lifetime or my lifetime as an MP. And the Liberals are saying they want to do big things in the North, and they're inviting me to be part of that conversation. I'd be crossing the floor immediately.
But then why did she run for the NDP in the first place?
Because they don't know anything. And that's true. I knew you were going to ask that question.
Yeah. So you were prepared.
My answer.
Yeah.
They don't know anything about the nature of the power game in Ottawa.
Shouldn't
they go there and they discover they think they're going to be important, and people really are interested in their opinions, and they discover that's not the way it works. It's highly centralized. And in the case of both Liberals and Conservatives, since the 1960s, power has been concentrated in the Prime Minister's office. And even cabinet ministers will feel frustrated because they don't have access to the Prime Minister, the Prime Minister's attention. One of the biggest symbolic misrepresentations in this country when people say you should have certain people should have a seat at the cabinet table. There is no cabinet table, and they don't sit there making decisions.
I appreciate your purity argument that we are electing individuals, right? And you're right. But in fairness, I think we recognize that most people, especially provincially and federally where the party system is at play, are electing the party banner. They think they're voting for Doug Ford, or they think they're voting for Pierre Poilievre or whatever. That's why they vote the way that they do. Very few vote for the individual. But even if we were to go that way and stay with your purity side of things then, of the argument, shouldn't the MP's first responsibility be to his or her constituents then? Who cares if anybody's listening to you in Ottawa? Just do the job for the people that voted for you.
Well, what is the job?
To represent their interests, to respond to their inquiries about passports and whatnot.
Well, so a lot of MPs spend their time doing that. And I think I see that's important, but that's not their primary job, which is to consider matters of public interest as expressed in legislation. So in contradiction with your argument, I point out the case of the BC Conservatives. There was clearly a leadership problem in that party, as various MLAs, as they call them, decided to leave the party and in one instance cross the floor, and that told observers that there was a serious leadership question here. And since the leader is so important in our system, we need to have a warning system that tells us that there is a problem with a particular leader and the way he or she is conducting the question of interacting with members of parliament. And, Brian Mulroney, who was much despised, never, ever suffered, to my memory, a floor crosser, even though when they were at 12% on the polls, because he maintained a very close relationship with each and every member of parliament.
Is this telling us anything, Peter, about the state of the NDP federally and the leadership race they've got going on? Maybe Ms. Idlout is the first of several that might decide they're done with the NDP.
Well, they have a serious question. I mean, consider that the NDP has a leadership debate to deal with. It's supposed to be in French, and even the person who's setting the question sets the question in English.
They have many.
It's like something, you're old enough to remember, it's like something out of Mad Magazine.
It is. Exactly it is. One of these days, Peter, I will convince you that floor crossing is the worst thing that ever happened to our system. But maybe today's not that day.
That'd be a long program, man.
I enjoy these conversations. I really do.
Likewise.
Thanks for being here.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Peter Wollstonecroft. I do, even though, I can't, he's as stubborn as I am, right? Peter Wollstonecroft is. You hear his arguments as to why floor crossing is just fine. I have shouted from the highest mountaintop I can find. I used to be on the 11th floor in downtown Kitchener. Now I think I'm on the second floor here. I am on the second floor here at the boardwalk. So they've taken away the height of my pulpit has been lowered, and I can only scream so loud from this level. This chafes my chaps beyond belief. We, as voters, last year, about a year ago, voted for a Liberal minority. That's what we voted for. Clearly, we didn't want to hand the reins of power to any one party. And now Mark Carney, good for him, has recruited his way to a potential majority. And that's an even greater likelihood now than it was even on Sunday when these by-elections were announced. Because if he won all three by-elections, he'd have the majority. But now he's got another recruit from the NDP. He needs just two of these by-elections to land on the red square for Liberal. And as Peter and I agreed, we disagree on floor crossing, but we agreed Bill Blair's and Chrystia Freeland's Toronto area ridings are so unlikely to change color that it looks like Mark Carney has himself a majority in Parliament in about a month's time. How do you feel about floor crossing? Would love to get your thoughts on it as we continue the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
When people cross the floor, that's a very important message to the leadership of the party that there's something really wrong here. And I take that as a good sign. Now, political science research would say that of all the parliamentary systems, we have the most centralized version in Canada. And yet we live in a very diverse and heterogeneous society. So there's a clash there between our political system and our way our society is organized.
Peter Wollstonecroft is a retired professor of political science from the University of Waterloo. Joins us this morning to talk by-elections and floor crossings. A very important sign, says Peter, is a floor crossing to the leader of that party. I also take it as a sign as a voter. If the person that I voted for successfully achieved office and then crossed the floor, the message that I would take away as a voter is that you didn't care about my vote. That's what I would, because I voted for you. Well, I always vote for the person anyway, so I guess that doesn't matter. But I get frustrated as all HE double hockey sticks by this. I really do. And I'm kind of surprised. I mean, this is just me being a bit of a partisan, I suppose. When Conservatives were crossing the floor to the Liberals, and I was expressing my frustration with this, a lot of people who leaned further left were like, oh, sour grapes, you just lost one from your team. Well, now the lefties lost one from their team because there's nothing ideologically comparable between the federal NDP and the federal Liberals, period. Like, so let's just be honest about that. But so those poor folks who voted for an NDP member in Nunavut are getting, well, none of it. So anyway, I'm surprised there's not a little bit more outrage being expressed this time, because now the left is losing one of its members as well. And I'm just going to leave it there. I'm frustrated. How do you feel about floor crossing? I'm going to go to the phones and just listen to Mike first. Farwell's Force, member number 37. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Mike. I have mixed feelings on this here as well. However, I agree with Professor Wollstonecroft's assertion that there's something wrong with your leader. I think when you look at the Conservative MPs that have crossed, they're red Tories. And I bet you they don't feel very welcome in that Reform Party, Conservative Party that's developed under Pierre Poilievre. Under the NDP floor crossing, well, in the territories, you don't really have a party system. I agree with that. But also, if I was an NDP member and I'm looking at the current leadership company things, they're not Ed Broadbent, they're not Tom Mulcair, Jack Layton. They're off in La La Land. So, but what I would prefer, Mike, is these guys, if they really disagreed with their leader, they sit as independents and not cross the floor. That's my thoughts.
All right, Mike, appreciate that. I would like them to go to a by-election. That's all. I think that the people that voted them in should have the right to vote them back in under a different party banner. And then we might learn more about, again, I think it's a very romantic notion that people are voting for an individual, but very few of us do. And that MPs act as individuals. I mean, there's a party whip for a reason, so they whip you into shape, whip you into line, right? You must toe that party line or you suffer the political consequences. So I think that most of us, like, we can argue that, oh yeah, these MPs are all individuals. Well, we'll find out then. Just put them back to the voters and see. Did voters vote for the NDP? Or did they vote for Ms. Idlout? And then that's fine. You want to go to a by-election and get reelected that way? Cool with me. Rick, how do you feel about floor crossings? Good morning.
Good morning, my friend. I totally agree with you. I think it's absolutely appalling that they can jump to another party when the people vote for them. I'm 286, and I couldn't agree with you anymore, my friend.
That's why you're a Farwell's Force member. See, we're a force for good. We'll fix this, right?
Yes, I can't believe that the government lets them get away with when the people voted for, like as you said before. I couldn't agree with you anymore, my friend, and thanks for talking about this because it's absolutely appalling.
All right. Thanks, Rick. I appreciate the call and your membership amongst the many Farwell's Force members, a force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. I would love to see our force for change affect some change in this regard. I know hundreds of times, truly, literally hundreds of times since our nation was born back in 1867. I get you, but that doesn't make it right. And I am all for, like, the argument that I'm most sympathetic to, and it leans into what Peter Wollstonecroft was saying a moment ago. It's the freedom that an MP has. They are elected as an individual, and if they don't like what's going on within that party in Ottawa, how are we to say they ought not have the freedom of their own conscience to move to a place where they feel it's better? I'm just asking for a by-election and all this, because I'm going to tell you what, and I've been reluctant to bring this up, but I'm going to say it out loud, and because we struggle with voter turnout as it is, and I want us to get more engaged, but this, to me, is a kick in the nether regions. It's as if the votes didn't matter. And so I'm getting closer and closer to the point of saying, you know what? I don't give a tinker's darn about your elections anymore. Stop wasting my time, because you're wasting my... If I had voted in none of it, then my vote, I feel, would have been wasted. And I got better things to do then than line up and mark an X that doesn't matter, because you don't care about it. That's the message that I get. from this. That's how upset I am by it. If you don't care, why should I care? You're just in it for yourself. You're going to the whatever party offers you the warmest water. Okay, well then what role do I play in all of this? No role? Cool. I'll find something else to do. I'll go watch a rerun of Seinfeld instead of go voting in the next election. An update from the 570 News Center is coming up, and you want to talk about things that vex me? How about that time change on the weekend? What a goofy... What are we doing? It's 2026. Can we stop changing the time, please? I think I have somebody who agrees with me to a point coming up. We'll talk about it on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I felt like we were close, and I mean really close, to doing away with what I believe to be the ridiculous practice, certainly ridiculous in the modern context, of changing our clocks twice annually. And I thought we were on our way to something good when BC Premier David Eby announced that British Columbia would heretofore and henceforth remain on daylight saving time. They moved the clocks forward, and they're going to keep them where they are. Stroke of a pen. Why can't we do that in Ontario? Well, maybe our next guest has ideas as to why we can't or shouldn't. Our next guest is Patricia Lakin-Thomas, a professor in the Department of Biology at York University and a member of the Board of Directors of the Canadian Society for Chronobiology. Patricia, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Nice to talk to you.
It's very nice to talk to you, especially about something that I am so passionate about. I don't know why I get so vexed about such little things, but this one I am vexed about, Patricia. Year after year, twice every year, we keep moving these clocks. Why do we continue with what I believe to be an archaic practice?
Well, you're right to be vexed about it. It's something that affects everybody, and we all know how irritating it is. And confusing. And I completely agree with you that we should get rid of it. There's no good reason to do it anymore, but the question is, do we go to daylight saving time or standard time year-round? We know it's bad for us to switch twice a year. We know that in the spring, when you spring forward, we have an increase in accidents like car accidents and workplace accidents, and we have an increase in acute health events like heart attacks and strokes. We don't see that in the fall, so it has something to do with the direction that we're switching. And we lose an hour of sleep in the spring, which also doesn't help. Why do we keep doing it? I think just out of habit. It is something that most of the world doesn't do. It was started in World War I, thinking it was going to save energy if you moved the daylight later in the day, but it didn't save energy. They tried it again in World War II. They tried it in the 70s. And then it just stuck after then. It doesn't seem to accomplish anything at all, except for a few people who want a little bit extra sunshine on a sunny summer afternoon to go out on the golf course. But I don't think we should be disrupting the entire population for that small group of privileged people who want to play golf on a summer afternoon.
So for British Columbia, Patricia, why now, do you suppose? Why this decision at this moment?
Well, they've been saying they had the ability to do this according to legislation that passed in, I think it was 2019. They had the ability to do this just by regulation whenever they felt like it, and they said they were going to wait for the west coast of the U.S. to switch at the same time, so Washington, Oregon, California. And David Eby said he was tired of waiting for them. We can't rely on them anymore. Cynics would say that he wanted a good news announcement to distract attention from economic problems in his province. He certainly announced it as a good news move. He had a whole bunch of dancing children at his press conference to say they were celebrating because he's giving families another hour of daylight. Which made it sound like he'd learned how to change the rotation of the Earth, because you can't really create an hour of sunlight. You can't do that. What he's done, though, he's gone to... I approve of getting rid of the switching, but he's gone to year-round daylight saving time instead of standard time. And what he's done is he's stolen an hour of light from the morning to put it in the afternoon. And from a biological standpoint, that's where those of us who work on biological clocks feel like he's gone the wrong direction. It's the morning light that we really want, and that's what he's taken away from us.
Okay.
BC.
Tell me more about that biological clock and why sticking to standard time would be the better practice.
Well, that's because we have to think about three different clocks, really. We've got the sun, and then we've got the clock in our brain, which is set by bright light. It's set by sunlight. Indoor light really isn't good enough. We're not very sensitive to light. We really need bright light to reset our clock in our brain. And the clock in the brain then coordinates clocks all over our body. So we have rhythms in just about everything, like body temperature, like your muscle tone. We have rhythms in your gut and in insulin production, rhythms in stress hormones. And they should all be coordinated so that they're timed so that when you are getting up in the morning, your body's ready to face the day. You've got stress hormones going up, which is a good thing to get you ready. You've got your gut and your insulin levels ready to process your food. You've got your muscles ready to move. If you get up too early, so then we have the social clock on the wall, which is what we change. And if the social clock is telling you to get up earlier than your body clock is ready, then you're not ready to face the day, and you have a physiological stress that can increase your risk of chronic diseases. So what we need is morning light to reset our clock. And that's what we have to keep telling people, is the morning is more important than the afternoon light, because that clock in our brain runs a bit slow. And we have to use the morning light to speed it up and get it back in sync with the day-night cycle. When you get a lot of light in the afternoon, early evening, you know how you feel in the summer. You want to stay up. You want to stay up and be active, stay up late, and then you go to bed late, but you have to get up with that alarm in the morning, and you've lost some sleep, and your body's not ready. All those body rhythms aren't ready. So the afternoon light feels good, and I know this is why people like the daylight saving time, but it's also pushing our clocks later, and that ends up being bad for us. So morning light's what we need, and standard time is when we get the morning light. We predict that people in BC are going to be pretty unhappy in the winter because the sun's going to come up an hour later, and they're going to not see the sun coming up till like 9 a.m. in Vancouver. And you got to get your kids out of bed, get them to school. You've got to get ready for work, get on transit to get to work in darkness, total darkness in the winter. And that's not going to be fun.
So if standard time is indeed the way to go, here in Ontario, I guess on our long and lazy summer nights, it'll be light till about 8:30ish instead of 9:30ish if we stay on standard time.
Yeah, you'll get less light in the late afternoon and early evening, but you get more light in the morning. In the summer, I understand why it feels better to do the switching in the summer, because the sun's going to come up early anyway in the summer, and you get a little more light in the late afternoon. But the problem is that pushes you late, and you stay up late, and your clock and your body rhythms are all pushed late by that late afternoon sun. Now, in Ontario, like BC, if we stayed on daylight saving time year-round, we would not see the sunrise till 9 a.m. in the winter. Now, when they've tried this in other places like the U.S., like Russia, like UK, they went from switching twice a year to daylight saving time year-round. Everybody thought it was a great idea before they started. The public was on board. After the first couple of winters, they just hated it, and they gave up on it and went back to either switching or standard time, which is what Russia did. They went back to standard time. So we're kind of predicting that there's going to be a bit of buyer's remorse in BC, that David Eby might not be so popular after the first couple of winters when they're getting up in the dark.
So how do we get there, Patricia, here in Ontario? Because honestly, I really don't care which way. Like, I'm with, okay, standard time is fine. I just don't want the twice annual switching and readjusting my body. So how do we convince Ontario? What do we have to do here?
Well, we already have legislation on the books that allows the province to go, unfortunately, to year-round daylight saving time when it's coordinated with the neighboring jurisdictions of New York and Quebec. David Eby's legislation in BC also said, let's wait to coordinate with the neighbors, and he just said, no, we won't, we'll do it now. I don't know, I can't remember how the legislation's written here in Ontario, if we would have to change the legislation to allow us to go to standard time, or if it just says you can drop the switching and we could go either direction. I'm just hoping that there'll be a national conversation now. So what has been proposed by an MP, Marie-France Lalonde, she has introduced a private member's bill into Parliament. It's passed the first reading that would just have a national conference, a pan-Canadian conference, get everybody together, and let's just have a unified, coordinated approach across Canada to decide what to do about this instead of different provinces going different directions. I think we want to get the experts together, talk to the policymakers. What the experts would be saying is let's go to standard time everywhere. But I think it's time now, with people in different provinces talking about it more than they have. Let's do it. Let's do it before November. Let's get that conference and get a unified Canadian solution to this.
I hope you get invited to that conference, Patricia.
Well, I have a lot of friends who will be at that conference, so we talk to each other across the country. This is, as you mentioned, I'm on the board of a group called the Canadian Society for Chronobiology, so we are people who study biological time. And also we coordinate with the sleep societies, who are people who have an interest in sleep and the medical aspects of sleep. And we all talk to each other and say, yes, let's see if we can all get this conference going.
I look forward to a change eventually. I'm getting more optimistic now, and I certainly appreciate your time on the show this morning, Patricia. Thank you for being here.
Great. Very happy to talk to you.
Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Patricia Lakin-Thomas is a professor in the Department of Biology at York University and a member of the board of directors of the Canadian Society for Chronobiology. She says, yes, let's do away with the time change, but can we stick to standard time, please? I will defer to her expertise. Quite frankly, I do not care, Sam I am. You cannot make me eat green eggs and ham. I don't care which way we go. But again, deferring to Ms. Lakin-Thomas's expertise, fine, standard time. Can we please, for the love of all things holy, like I'm having myself a day over here today. It's been a little bit of a bumpy road. I came in all fired up about the bus terminal in downtown Kitchener and what we're not doing with it, because I don't think we have any courage or vision in this community anymore. Nobody wants to innovate or inspire us with grand ideas. And then we go through floor crossings in the last half hour. Now we're here. Can I have one win? Can I have 2 liters of pop? Can we stop changing the clocks? What do you think? Are you with me, or are you gimme? Let me know. 519-570-2545. Star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Should we stop with the biannual clock changing? The answer for me is absolutely yes. I don't really care which time you want to leave it on, but I can understand Patricia Lakin-Thomas's argument as to why it should stay on standard time. So who's with me for no more clock changes? This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I think we want to get the experts together, talk to the policymakers. What the experts would be saying is let's go to standard time everywhere. But I think it's time now, with people in different provinces talking about it more than they have. Let's do it. Let's do it before November. Let's get that conference and get a unified Canadian solution to this.
Who's up for the challenge? Farwell's force is a force for change. maybe collectively we can inspire this conversation to happen before November. You know, the next time we change the ding-dang clocks. That's Patricia Lakin-Thomas, who's a professor in the Department of Biology at York University and a member of the Board of Directors of the Canadian Society for Chronobiology. She says she agrees with me. We should stop with the twice-annual time change, but what we should do here in Ontario, different than what they just did in British Columbia, is we should stay on standard time as opposed to daylight saving time, which is what BC is going to stay on. And Patricia Lakin-Thomas thinks BC residents are going to have buyer's remorse sometime soon when the winter mornings you are greeted with darkness until about 9 a.m. What do you think? Can we do away with the clock change, please? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Bonnie, good morning.
Good morning. I do not want the changes to be made. I want it to be left as it is. Only thing is that daylight saving time should not start until April. Do you realize if you stayed on standard time in the summer from about the 20th of June till the end of July, you would be having sunrise at 20 to 5 in the morning? I like to get up, but I don't really want to get up before 5:30. I'm happy to get up with the sunshine in the summer, but not at 4:30 or 20 to 5, thank you very much. Same thing if you stay on daylight saving time. I don't want to be crawling around in the dark till 9:30 every morning in the winter time. So leave it as it is. The only problem is we went with the Americans who switched to daylight saving time way back into March. At one time it was the end of April, which was perfect. Mid-April I'm fine with too, but it is too early to switch in March.
Could I convince you, Bonnie, to get some thicker blinds or drapes so the early morning sun's not going to bother you?
Why, I love the sunshine. I want to be out when the sun is shining. That's why I want my long summer nights as well. The kids are going to wake up. You talk about kids not sleeping properly. So how are you going to keep the children in bed at 6 o'clock on a summer day when the sun is going to be already up and going? And, you know, we go to the airport and we do 6-hour shifts and 12-hour shifts, and nobody's dying from it. The airport is going to be super busy with the beginning of March break. Nobody's going to be dying and all these health issues that everybody comes up with. You know what? There's so many problems in the world. The time change, just leave things alone. Thank you.
Okay. Bonnie, great arguments, and I appreciate it. Bonnie says keep it exactly the way that it is, but please move daylight saving time back into April. Yeah, I remember when we made that change because the Americans did. Right? And this is why I get frustrated with us not making the change now. Oh, we have to wait for our neighbors. Stop it. Let's just say we know what's better, or this is what we want. And look, I get Bonnie's point, but where I struggle is it's an artificial manipulation of time itself. And I tried this argument with my best buddy, and he said, even time is an arbitrary concept that we at one point created. Fair enough. But, you know, Bonnie's talking about the kids wanting to be up at 6 o'clock when the sun's out, and she doesn't want to be up until 5:30 or so. I get all of that. But what we forget sometimes, I think, is that really, I know that we are incredibly intelligent animals, but we are still animals, and our bodies are regulated, conditioned by the earth, by nature. And so you heard our guest from York University talking about that natural circadian rhythm that our body has. Why are we trying to artificially manipulate that? Yes, now, because we've been doing this for so ding-dang long, it seems a little bit counterintuitive to have daylight starting around 4:30, 4:45 in the summer months and not having it until 9:30 in those summer months, or the darkness until 8:30, 9 o'clock on winter mornings. I get it, but we have to think of the natural rhythms of our animal bodies. And I don't know why we thought that it would be a good idea to manipulate those. Actually, I don't think we ever considered the manipulation of our natural rhythms when we started doing the time change, right? I think what we were considering then is saving electricity, getting more light for farmers, all these different ideas and reasons for it. We weren't really considering that we are actual animals. We are human beings, and as such, we come with a certain natural rhythm that is governed by and responds to what the earth gives us. I don't know why we're trying to manipulate that. You can't get, as Patricia pointed out, BC Premier David Eby saying he's giving you an extra hour of daylight. No, he's not. They only get so many hours. So we'll figure it out. We will adapt as adaptable creatures. I would like us to stop doing the time change. I see Mary on the line, but I don't have time now. And so we can start taking calls on the Talkback Hour after this news update. You want to talk about the time change. You want to talk about floor crossing. You want to talk about big ideas for our former bus terminal downtown Kitchener. I'm here for all of it on the Mike Farwell Show. Talkback is next on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
All right, let's get to talking back, okay? I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking at today. I came in pretty fired up. They put my name on the show. They said, Farwell, every morning, 9 o'clock, you turn on that microphone, have at it. So I feel as though I've had my chance to have at it. And now between noon and 1, we open the phone lines so you can have at it. I will just answer as many calls as I can for the next 55 minutes, okay? We'll begin with Mary on Talkback. Hello, Mary.
Hi. Well, yes, we got fired up about the old bus terminal, so we've had at her with that. I think sometimes people are wimps about the time. Now, I'm with you. I don't care what time they change, but keep with the same time all the time. And we used to put the clocks forward in April. Now they're making it beginning of March, which is way too soon. But again, I don't want change. But the lady you had on, she said, health-wise, when you change the clocks in the fall, that's what it should stay. But the other lady that called in, she was so upset because she didn't want the sun coming up this time and that time. Well, I've been in the UK, close to the Scottish border, in June, and it started getting light at 2 in the morning. And I was fine. I slept. Like, the farther north you get, Mike, what about those that get 24 hours of sun? Mike?
I would like to experience the 24 hours of sun sometime,
well,
Mary.
you go there.
I will go there
Well,
sometime.
what I'm saying, sometimes people are wimps. Like, no, come on. You gotta, like, you can't please, like, make a small bunch. And I took umbrage that the ladies said it was a bunch of pack of, she didn't say lies, about all the health issues. They wouldn't be able to report those if it wasn't true. But anyway,
absolutely.
Mike, she didn't want the sun coming up at 5. But I said I have experienced, and it didn't bother me. I just kept sleeping. No problem, Mike.
Good job, Mary. Thank you. 2 messages for Mary. Don't be a wimp. And I think what we're getting around to with the call before the noon update about not changing the way we do time, keep changing the clocks twice a year. That's fine. But Bonnie, who called, thought that the health impacts were overstated. And I think Mary's right. They're not, obviously. These are legitimate conditions and issues that do exist. The thing is, they don't impact all of us, right? It's that simple. And so if they're not impacting us personally, we may not think about the validity of the claims. Kyle, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
6 here. First of all, thanks for Lisa, Force for Change yesterday, giving me some ideas for my garden. So I just want to say thank you, Lisa. Second thing is, as long as the time change keeps me letting me cut my lawn and have barbecues late into the evening with the sunshine, I'll be happy. So I don't want to be waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning with the sun. I'd rather have the sun go down later instead of coming up earlier. And the third thing is these gas prices. I feel bad for the consumer. As somebody that does deliveries, I paid just over $2 a liter for diesel. And the fuel surcharge rates, looking online, depending on the company, is fluctuating between 43% all the way up to at least 50% for a fuel surcharge now on some of the invoices that are being sent out. And as somebody said, that represents the customers that are paying for that. And, I obviously have to pass that number down to my consumer or the customer that's using me. And whatever that customer's buying from them, that cost gets put down to them. And, you can't run a business on risk. So it can't just be like, I can't just keep my rates the same and run my business on a risk and hopefully the prices don't go up and down. I have to do that. But I really feel bad because it's, tough times right now. But now it's just like now with the gas prices coming up almost, going from $1.30 to $1.60 plus for just even regular is crazy. Like, I don't understand how people that are, just getting by can afford this. And I really feel bad for them. But I just want to reflect and just say, it's something needs to stop. Somebody said that we have our own oil and maybe bring some refineries up and back into Canada instead of shipping it down to the States all the time to get it refined and sold back to us. Like, we actually need refineries here in Canada. Maybe that could decrease the cost of fuel, but it's ridiculous. Maybe even stop charging 30 cents a liter or whatever it is, 30% per liter on taxes just for us to, get some gas here. But thanks, Mike. I just want to appreciate it. Thanks, buddy.
All right, Kyle, appreciate it. You could lower taxes on alcohol while you're at it as far as I'm concerned. Andre, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Good afternoon, Mike. The reason this morning you're in my head is you said it, All Fired Up by Pat Benatar. That was you.
Andre, you called and all you did was laugh. I picked up the phone, I said, hi, Andre, and you just kept laughing.
I know, because I listened to you in the morning about the project downtown, and I was just dreaming, like David Guetta would say, about the whole vision thing. And you are absolutely right when, the council should be excited about this project, especially when you've been pretty much raised here. We're talking about a big project and a lot can be done. So, you're very right. And the reason I was laughing, too, is because you're the Grand Poobah, and I think we should get everybody to get together and talk about this and maybe share our opinion about what can we do, right? And the last thing, Mike, Chef D said, we're all the way here and you're all the way there, and he was right, Mike. And I was just wondering how you spend your night last night watching the game.
I did not watch the game, Andre.
Not with your wife?
Nope.
Nope.
There you go. And now Andre's back to laughing. I'll tell you this for free. If I were the Grand Poobah, you can bet your bottom dollar I would be talking about a place in downtown Kitchener that inspires us to leave all of the soulless condominiums we are building, a place for us to go to be entertained, to congregate, to have a good time, because a city is not created on its housing structures alone. Give us some things that inspire. I'm looking at you, Gaslight District. It's a pretty nice place, isn't it? I'm leaving it there for now. We're going to keep taking calls on Talkback. Hello, Grant.
Oh, yeah, like Andre says, yeah, you're hilarious.
I'm glad you think so.
It always makes me think of this comedian that I saw at the Center and Square. I'm now getting into what I was going to talk about. His name is Jeremy Hotz. He's funny to look at, and you got to meet him. And I told him, you know what, you're funny to look at. Yeah, and he looked at me and looked at the security guard. And the security guard said, I think that's a compliment. Okay. Yeah, he, like I said, just look him up, and he's got a funny looking face, and yeah, just do it. Yeah. And what is the outcome when someone, like yesterday, when they called up and made a false report at Grand River School? Like, what kind of charge is it? Is it?
It's called mischief.
Right? Sorry?
It's called mischief.
And so, what does that detail? And do they get?
Well, it would depend on how old they are, and considering this was a problem at a high school, I am assuming it was a high school student, and that means they're going to get a very stern warning.
Yeah, I sure hope so. You know, because like do something a little bit more beneficial. You know, read a book or something.
I like that. No more swatting calls. Read a book or something. I'm old enough to have been one of those people that made prank phone calls when I was a kid. Am I proud of it? No. In retrospect, like, what a dumb way to spend time. But there was no such thing as call display, and nobody checked on anything. So do you know the number of pizzas and or cabs we had sent to the next door neighbor of my best friend growing up? Like, we would spend hours on the phone making prank phone calls, having pizzas delivered or cabs called to this guy's house. How do you trace that? There's no such technology back in the 1980s when we were dumb kids. Grant says, read a book. I was reading my Hardy Boys books. By high school, I was probably into Stephen King. Anyway, I digress. It's the Talkback Hour where you get to start the conversation. We got a Paul, we got a Terry, and we got a line for you if you want to be a part of the conversation on The Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The hour from noon until 1 every day is our Talkback Hour, where you get the chance to start the conversation. You can weigh in on an issue that we talked about earlier today, or you can create the issue of the day. Maybe it's something going on in your neighborhood, your part of the world. If it's important to you, it's important to us. Back to the phones we go. Preston Paul, Farwell's Force member number 45. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I got a few things there. Kyle's right. We need the daylight at the end of the day, not at the beginning. And for the people on the ice that are going out there, and you had a caller say it's a freak thing. It's every spring we're rescuing people off the lake, whether it's Georgian Bay, Lake Simcoe, wherever. We're always rescuing somebody that's going on ice, and it just floors me how that their lives were saved. They should be compensating the government for the services that were provided to make them live longer.
All right, Paul, appreciate the call and the points on that. We did talk about that big ice rescue in Owen Sound on Georgian Bay on the weekend. 23 ice fishers out there, and then the ice was no longer safe. And you know the story by now. Paul says they should be compensating. They should be paying for the rescue. Of course, the counter argument is we pay that through our taxes, right? And it's interesting. All of you night owls that are a part of this show, I'm an early bird. I like the morning light. I would much prefer the light in the morning. 8:30 is late enough for me. I'm ready to tuck in by about 9:30 anyway. Terry, you're next on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Maybe you should have like a laughing contest, because you got a number of callers who call in and start laughing. You got Grant, Doug, even Andre, so you have like a laugh off. How's that?
It's not a bad idea. Instead of laugh in, we'll have laugh off.
Laugh off, like a bake off. Anyway, Mike, Kyle is right. I was camping several years ago out in Maine, and it was early July, so it was the height of summer. And I remember they're a little farther north and a little farther east, and then the state of Maine is on the same time zone that we are. I remember 3:30 in the morning was already daylight, so I go, wow. It gets dark around 8:30, but still. I mean, in the wintertime, does it really matter? I prefer if they do go to one time zone, just keep it at saving time. Because let's face it, in the winter, Mike, we go into work, it's dark. We go home, it's dark. So does it really matter what time the sun comes up? I leave home, like say 6:37 in the wintertime. It's pitch black. I come home 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it's pitch black. So I don't think I prefer the saving time, the time we have during the summer hours. It's 5 o'clock. Daylight is fine, and then keep it a little lighter towards like say 9:30. That's perfect. So that's my opinion on that, Mike.
All right, Terry. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. Again, I don't know why we want to why are we trying to manipulate this? The daylight you get is the daylight you get, depending on the part of the world you live in. This manipulation, I find, I've been thinking about it so much. I've invested so much of my energy in thinking about the time change. I don't get it. The daylight is the daylight, period. It comes when it comes, depending on what part of the world you live on. That's it. Simple. And just, I don't know, we manipulate these things because we think we're smarter than nature, apparently. John, you're next on Talkback. Good afternoon.
I hope you're settled down by now. You were fired up this morning.
Oh, John, I really was. I'm sorry about that. I came in hot today, my friend.
Boy, did you ever. I'm glad I wasn't on the road with you. Listen.
Yeah.
I'm a little bemused and bemised about this, the old bus terminal downtown. Is that a regional issue or is it a City of Kitchener issue? I'm a little confused.
Well, you're right to be a little confused, but generally it's a regional issue. The City of Kitchener owns a small little part of it, but it's the goofiness of our two-tier government. So there's nobody's going to hold anything up. The region's going to deal with this, no problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think on the region deal here too. I mean, they've blown it on this land assembly. They're blowing it on the water issues. I really believe that we're not getting our money's worth with these people. We're paying them benefits, we're paying them pensions, and I just don't really feel that we're getting our money's worth from regional government. And further to that, you had also mentioned some of the businesses that were instrumental in attracting people and stuff. I think you missed a couple. I think you missed 1857 Seagram's, 1933 Chicopee, the Bowersgate and Greb Shoe Empire, and my favorite, the Highway Market.
All right, John, I appreciate it.
Talk to you later, buddy.
You too. Okay, take good care. Look, we could spend all day talking about these long-standing, well-known historic local businesses. I was thinking more along the lines of big, bold risks, right? And three examples that I shared. One of them, the University of Waterloo. You had a university president, some business people deciding that post-World War II, we need the next generation of engineers, and what better place to train them than at a university in our community. But at the time, you just have to think back to the mid to late 1950s when Jerry Hagee, Ira Needles, Carl Pollack were thinking about this stuff. And it was just like they acquired and amassed so much land out in the middle of basically nowhere. And just consider the University of Waterloo today and its importance in our community. If those men, and I'm not trying to discount women, but they were men at the time doing this, if they had not had that vision and that spirit, that vision to make that decision then, where would we be today? Right? Another one of the examples that I used was the expressway. And Bill Thompson, long regarded, he's 99 years young now, and he's long been regarded as the father, or maybe at this point the grandfather, of our expressway here in the region. Yes, he was a municipal planner, so he was employed by government, but it was his vision driving that bus that brought the idea of the expressway to life for us. And he got the buy-in, and we as a community boldly got behind the idea and got it done. And how many times over the decades have we said, where would we be without that expressway? And then finally, there's the Kitchener Memorial Auditorium. And my bias notwithstanding, because yes, I work within that building. I love that building like so many of us love that building. You have to take yourself back. Heck, we can go back to the 1930s when the idea was envisioned, shot down, came back about a decade later. In the mid-1940s, there was a greater appetite after World War II to have this memorial built to our war veterans, and it got done. But at the time when it was opened in the 1950s, the Cornerstone, when it opened then, it was the fourth largest such facility in the entire province. When's the last time anybody in this community proposed something so bold? When's the last time we built the fourth largest anything in Ontario? Ask yourself that question. And what I'm saying is this site on Charles Street in downtown Kitchener, where the bus terminal used to be, is the opportunity for something that big, that bold. Where's the courage to do it? Where's the courage to even express the idea? I'm waiting for it. This is the Mike Farwell Show. It's the Talkback Hour, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I just got an email from Clinton, Farwell's Force member number 35. And I think he has solved one of the problems we're trying to solve here on the show today. And that is the ding-dang clock change, which I think should just end forever. And I quite frankly don't care which time you leave it on, as long as you just leave it on a time. And then I guess we'll adapt to that time. But I find it super frustrating that in the modern age, we still go through this ridiculous practice of changing the clocks twice a year. I think if I had my druthers, I'd leave it on standard time. But that notwithstanding, Clinton's email to Mike at 570news.com says the simple compromise is when we arrive in the fall and we fall back, we change the clocks one more time. But we change them by 30 minutes instead of an hour. And then we leave the time there. So everybody that thinks, well, I don't want to lose the time at the end of the day, I want the daylight longer, or I want the daylight earlier, we'll just move it by half an hour, and then it's a compromise. Because we can compromise still, even in this hyper-partisan world we live in, right? Let's compromise. Let's fall back in November 30 minutes, and then leave the time where it is. I would love it if we did that. It is your Talkback Hour, giving you the chance to do just that. Talk back at us. Give us a call and start the conversation about what's on your mind or what's important in your world. Jersey Bill is with us. Good afternoon, Billy.
Hey, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you about this whole crossing of the what do they call it, crossing the aisle kind of thing.
Why, Billy? I thought you liked democracy.
Yeah, I do. But I mean, this is, in these troubled times, I really do think that we need a clear-headed idea about which way the Canada should be going. And with the results of the last election, essentially the New Democrats were dead, and I think federally, and I think they should stay dead. I mean, I keep hearing, talk about cynicism. The only reason that the Conservatives want to see a revitalized New Democrats is because then that gives people who have a moderately progressive or more progressive idea, if there are two candidates for them to choose from, they'll split that vote, and they'll come into power with as little as 33% of the vote. And of course the Greens are there too, to siphon away votes from people who may not share the more hardline conservative view of many of the conservative candidates that run. So I just believe that there's one less that brings them down to 6. I guess Mr. Davies is going to his ideology is going to remain New Democratic, but maybe the other 5 should just decide, let's just claim our party is dead and we'll fold it into the Liberals. And I think provincially they should look and see, especially out west, starting at the Manitoba border, there is no Liberal provincial party, and those Liberal provincial parties should fold into the New Democrats. And as I say, I always hope that a kind of a decent sort of slightly liberal and social democratic kind of party would be there. which wouldn't be subject to all the crazy notions of the more left wing side of the New Democrats.
But isn't that part of the problem here, Billy? Like, what can you possibly find ideologically comparable between the federal NDP and the federal Liberals right now? There's nothing.
Yeah, but I think that, you know, over the years, the unions have decided to support one or the other, depending on which one they thought had a better chance of winning and giving them a voice in government. And I think that's really this whole idea of the working class being disenfranchised and all these kind of social minorities. Which I have nothing against, but it's just I don't like them driving the politics. Because that, you know, it tends then to make the politics less about economic issues and, you know, bread and butter issues that we all say we were interested in, and more about which flag do we fly, which group, what should be the rights of which subset of what subset of some sexual minority or whatever, you know. And I think those things should be adjudicated, but they shouldn't be the thing that drives the government. And when they are, that's what tends to make it impossible for anybody with a slightly progressive ideology to succeed. And the conservatives take over because they look what they're doing. They're changing the society in the way you don't want. Oh well.
Billy, appreciate the call and the perspective always. Something that Billy said there towards the end about, you know, giving an outsized voice to more fringe issues. And I use the word fringe carefully because I remember the fringe minority, believe you me. But I wonder sometimes if that isn't what's paralyzing our local government today. The outsized voice being given. I mean, everybody's got... We have a greater voice than ever, and there are very good things that come with that. But if you'll allow me, and I recognize the risk, like I'm like one of those fishermen out in Georgian Bay right now. The ice is not as safe where I'm about to step on it. But if we were to ask ourselves honestly, let me compare it to the business that I work in here in news and talk radio. In news radio, the idea of any newsroom in broadcast or in print is to determine what matters the most to the greatest number of people. And then you've got your lead story or your front page, right? What matters the most to the greatest number of people? So let's tie that into what Billy just said about these outsized voices gaining traction politically. And let me take you to the report that the region has prepared on the site of the Charles Street bus terminal. Community priorities through community consultation have determined that the priorities for this redevelopment should be affordable housing, green space, and Indigenous-led uses, all of which absolutely have their place in a complete, inclusive, fulsome community. No question. Affordable housing, green space, and Indigenous-led uses. But if we were to ask what matters the most to the greatest number of people, how many of us want to be inspired by the amenities in our community? We can still do these things. Find the space for affordable housing, for more green space. Psst, downtown Kitchener, you've got the Bram Street Yards, also awfully close to the existing Victoria Park. Like we can do these things. You see what I'm getting at here? Like we can walk and we can chew gum. We can inspire a community to congregate, to celebrate together, to do interesting things, to share interesting stories and performances. Give us things to do other than just live in the housing that you've created, right? That's what being a part of a vibrant community is all about. So yes, affordable housing is important. Green space is important. Indigenous-led uses are important. But what matters the most to the greatest number of people? Are we being influenced on this critical piece of downtown real estate by the outsized voices of smaller groups? What will inspire our community as a whole? And where else might we be able to make these other community priorities by way of a consultation? Who participates in the consultations? We have to ask these questions. Where else can we find space for these other things? You determine how thick or thin that ice is that I just stepped on. But I really feel like we are on the cusp of an opportunity here in the region that we are not courageous enough to take advantage of. I really believe that. Talkback continues with Tim. Good afternoon, Tim.
Hey, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for making the call.
I just wanted to make a point. I'm totally with you. As a younger person myself, I've seen the disappearance of, there's this thing I read recently called third spaces. So everyone's got their work, right? And you've got your home, so your first and second space. But the disappearance of those places where you do your social gatherings, the kids have the mall that they go to. I remember I used to go to Laser Quest as a kid. All those shut down. Basically, what I'm trying to get across is that we desperately, as a community, need those third places to, for young people to meet, for people to mingle, for parents to see other parents, and yeah, that's just it's just a shame because I don't see anyone prioritizing that. And now the third place has become more and more virtual with every passing year. Really well said, Tim. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, so that's just my 2 cents. It's a little bit sad, but I hope that someone can step in and make some positive change. Thanks, Tim. Great to hear from you today. And this is why I have been so passionate about it today. And I'll let you in. I'll tell you what. It's all about transparency on this show, right? I'll let you in on a little secret. I have had a couple of conversations off the air about this very thing. So people are willing to talk about it, not yet on the air. I'm the one bringing it to the air. But I promise you, I'm not the only one with an appetite for this. And to Tim's point, right, why should those third spaces be virtual? Let's not forget also the economic opportunity. And I know, here comes my inner capitalist. Look, no one ism is a perfect ism, okay? But if we have a major sports and entertainment facility, perhaps coupled with a significant conference center that will attract sporting events, performances, business travel to our community. Last time I checked, we still have the airport, right? Like, imagine having businesses fly into the region of Waterloo to hold a conference that we are quite capable of hosting, and the economic spin-off from that. And if we get the economic spin-off from that, forget the jobs that are created during the construction of and then to staff these new facilities, that's an economic spin-off as well. But all of a sudden, we have this money coming into the economy, and restaurants do well, and hotels do well, and all of a sudden, you've got a little bit of prosperity. Well, what can you do? Oh, yeah, and by the way, these facilities don't just sit there and neglect to pay their property tax. You see what I'm getting at? And then you've got some money in the tax roll that helps you get to these important issues of affordable housing and green space and Indigenous-led uses. And I think these things can work together. But I'm a little bit worried right now that we are being ultra-conservative, and this is not the time. We have opportunity staring us right in the face, and thy name is the former Charles Street bus terminal. Are we going to turn our back on the opportunity? I sure hope not. It's Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. At 1 o'clock, I turn things over to Rob Snow. So this is your chance to talk back here
on our show this afternoon. Toll-free Jay is next. Good afternoon, Jason.
Hi. Well, first of all, it's just Jay. Second, also, I think that we're getting too COVID comfortable and not taking risks with new ideas and going forward. And also, I think the daylight saving time discussion is going to be the same as discussing the winter. Every year we have the same problems, and it never changes. So you'll have years of radio, and thank you for providing us with topics to discuss.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. I don't think you're wrong about that. Twice a year, whether I want to or not, we'll talk about the time change probably, won't we? A little too COVID comfortable. Perhaps. Maybe that's when things changed. Maybe that's when we became ultra cautious. I hope we can break out of it. Bruce is with us on Talkback. Good afternoon, Bruce.
Hey, Mike. I couldn't agree with you more that we need to think outside the box and do something creative in our community, especially with sports. You are dead on. We shouldn't have to go to Toronto to see professional sports. I think we should be attracting the women's new soccer league, professional women's soccer league. We should look for a PWHL league and attract them. And how do you do that? You build a facility.
You know, Bruce, and I feel bad when I talk about this because I obviously have a bias being such a big sports fan and working to some degree in it. But I think you're so right about this. And I'm sorry, but the United States, if God bless America, has this way over us here. They take such an interest. They make such investments in sport. And go find me the major-sized stadium they have built in the United States, and the government, the local government, owns it. Like, why do we make? I know that the odd is owned by the city. Why does that have to be the model? I don't understand.
I agree with you. Not only that, but we don't even have an outdoor soccer field that could host a team right now.
Yep.
We don't even have enough fields for our youth to play in right now. And we got Schlegel Park being built, which is great, but that's 25, 30 years overdue.
I thought about Schlegel Park too, and I didn't want to be dismissive of it because you're absolutely right. Beautiful, but 25 to 30 years overdue. And where is the major tenant? It's not that kind of facility, right? It's for us to enjoy as residents of the community, but are we putting the professional soccer team in there? Are we doing track and field meets in there? No.
And not only that, Mike, but you build a proper facility with hotels attached, and you will make so much money with kids and youth tournaments every weekend. Like, it'd be a destination to come to. I can't believe people can't think outside the box and get things done. You're right about the U.S. That's one thing they got is they can build beautiful facilities. I'd actually get you to look at the CLS Center in Cochrane, Alberta. They have 25,000. They got a beautiful facility, and they're going to build another one because it's been so successful.
I will check it out for sure. Really appreciate your call, Bruce. Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Somebody else who can dream a little bit. So there you go. And by the way, fill those hotels with youth tournaments, etc. I know I only go to 19 other Ontario Hockey League markets, but let me tell you, you see it all the time. All the time. And I know it happens here. Could happen more. Is this Arnold?
Hi, my name is Armel. How are
Armel, I'm good. How are you?
Well, the country is going in a bad direction. A very bad direction. Unemployment rate is very high, and yeah, is there anyone who I can speak with and do this?
I'm sorry. What?
Hello.
Hi.
Is there someone that I can speak with regards to this?
With regards to high unemployment?
High unemployment rate, especially for young people, especially for us Gen Z.
Yeah, well, listen, I know that Scott Hamilton, councillor in Cambridge, has brought forward a motion looking at this in the city of Cambridge, and I would absolutely recommend your MP to be a part of this too. That's who I would talk to.
Actually, I'm from the other side of town, though, and yeah.
Well, tell me the other side of town.
Well, I'm
not in Cambridge.
No, I'm from Bradford, Ontario.
Bradford, Ontario. You're up by, that's up by Barrie, isn't it?
Almost, yes.
Well, son of a gun. I wish I could help you more, but I'm sitting here in Kitchener trying to host a talk show.
Well, I would love to talk about how the country is going in a bad direction, especially with all the policies, especially with Bill C-9.
Refresh me.
Well, Bill C-9 is a threat to us for us Christians who are in risk of just preaching. With just preaching.
Oh, no. Okay, no. Okay. See, I get my C bills. I'm sorry. I try to keep track of all of them. And I'm just going to say your conservatives are now have successfully removed any worry about one's religious expression and freedom within the online harms, or hate speech. Again, my C9s, and we haven't been talking about C9 today, and that one is one that just got through the cracks here, I think, because that's very confusing. But I've always said, when you host a live call-in show, it's like walking on a tightrope. You never know what you're going to get. I'm glad we got that call from Bruce. I'm glad there are some more dreamers out there, and I hope our regional council is listening. Massive opportunity for you downtown. Don't blow it. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.